Yeah, I'll try to do it on the fly when we get there. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, November 1st. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by BetMGM. We're back to talk a four-gamer. We got a little bit of the news that we were looking for. Jalen Suggs is going to be in today. We also lost Steve Nash. We allegedly gained Udoka as the coach of the Nets, potentially. Not for today. That's going to be Jacques Vaughn. And as of 10 seconds ago, evidently Josh Giddey now questionable, which generally means Josh Giddey now active for today. We'll touch on that and everything else in a little bit. Hit that like button as we get started. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, I know we both dug into this slate a little bit, and now it's probably going to change even more, but I like this slate today.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. And now, like you said, it has the potential to look quite a bit different if we assume that Josh Giddey being questionable means Josh Giddey's good to go. So definitely changes a lot. The Steve Nash firing and Ben Simmons not playing changes some stuff from this morning. Simmons, obviously, but then, Nash being fired doesn't necessarily change a ton, but it makes it a little riskier to just look at the Nets' previous rotations and say this is going to happen again, since now it's Jacques Vaughn. So definitely some different stuff to talk about.
Yep. Going to be a little bit different. So let's just do it. Let's just get into it. I think we're going to have some intricacies that we need to touch on. So Chicago Bulls, 2-point dogs in Brooklyn, 232 total. We don't have updates for this one, unfortunately. We knew earlier today that Zach LaVine was going to be playing. We don't have an update on Dosunmu. We do not have an update on Kobe White. Both guys are questionable. I've got them both in for right now. So let's look through Chicago. Most owned person on the Bulls on the DraftKings side, 26% owned Nikola Vucevic. He's also 20% owned on FanDuel. LaVine is 20 on both sites. DeRozan is 20 on FanDuel, 10 on DK. But let's start with Vooch, 7,800. And now with Ben Simmons out, slightly less interesting in a vacuum than he was before.
Yeah, but still really interesting.
Yes.
To your point, it's not a matchup or a Ben Simmons thing. It's that Nick Claxton gives you another center option now at a cheaper price point than Vooch. But Vooch still looks really good. No Andre Drummond, coming off of a game where he played 36 minutes. Have him projected for 34. Easily could see 36 again. Solid matchup here against Brooklyn. Just underpriced for Drummond to be out, basically.
Yeah. Looks great. Very clearly, to me, the best point per dollar play you're going to get out of Chicago on the DraftKings side and the FanDuel side, for that matter. Talk to me a little bit about DeRozan. 8,500, small forward, power forward. Hasn't been as aggressive with the usage rate so far this season, but still having a good year, 1.11 FanDuel points per minute. But just 11% owned. Does that intrigue you at all here against Brooklyn on a four-gamer?
Who were you asking about?
DeRozan.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking the Brooklyn side because I just talked about Claxton, and I was confused for a second. But sort of. It's just kind of difficult to get there because there's a couple of other options in that range that I really like. One being Paolo Banchero. You have obviously Kevin Durant as a pay-up small forward. You have Jimmy Butler, your boy, at a similar price range. And I am a little bit concerned about DeRozan's rates this year. We talked about it a little bit this morning, but his usage is down. His rebounding percentage is down. Not like he's still a high usage guy, but and it probably does rebound a bit, but I'm a little bit concerned about those rates. And then, you have LaVine expected to play, you have Vooch in, you have other guys in that price range. So in tournaments at relatively low ownership on a 4-game slate, you can obviously make a case for getting there, but I do think he's sort of difficult to get to as well.
After that, LaVine sort of is what he is at this point. I don't think we have too much to say here. What do you want to do if Dosunmu and Kobe White are both in? Dosunmu not pulling any ownership at 5,400. Patrick Williams at 3,500 is 17% owned as a bit of a value play. What do you do with the rest of the Bulls?
Not getting to much of anything else, at least on DraftKings. Got to a lot of Vooch. Really didn't get to much of anything else. Like a little bit of DeRozan, got to like one lineup with Derek Jones Jr., 4% Patrick Williams. I don't have much of anything. If Dosunmu were to sit, I think that's good for Patrick Williams minutes. He would likely play more. He'd look like a good value at 3,500. But assuming those guys are in, I don't really see much else.
Same. Especially on FanDuel, Dosunmu's not pulling much ownership. I've got about 5%. Patrick Williams not pulling all that much ownership at 4,100. I got about 5%. I'm not really working my way down any further for Chicago. It's mostly just 20-ish% of DeRozan, Vooch, Levine, and I kind of just walk away from the Chicago side.
Yeah, same boat for me. Like if Dosunmu is out, or even if Kobe White's out, like maybe if Kobe White's out, it opens up a little bit. But if Dosunmu's out, I think that opens up Caruso, it opens up Williams. But if he's in, it's just really tough for me to get to anything outside of Vooch.
Yeah, we're on the same
Like
page here.
Levine, if you get to some Levine, that looks fine as well. He's only 7,500. I mentioned him in my tournament plays videos as looking like he was going under owned, but even given that, I'm getting to like 8%.
Alrighty, let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets team under new coach Jacques Vaughn. We'll start on the top here. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. I liked them both earlier today. I'm getting excessive amounts of Kyrie Irving right now. But my question to you is this. Are you expecting the two of them to continue to play the same sort of volume they were getting before? Because that's part of the appeal. Kyrie's been playing like 40 minutes a game. Durant probably around 38. Do you think Jacques Vaughn just nerfs that?
I'm a little concerned about it, but I also don't want to walk them back too far. I mean, you have Durant averaging just shy of 38 minutes per game this year. You have Kyrie averaging 39 and a half. Jacques Vaughn's been with this team for years. It's not like I'll be more concerned about it if and when Udoka takes over. But Jacques Vaughn's been on the bench. And also I think Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving do whatever the hell they want. I think if Kyrie wants to go play 40 minutes, Jacques Vaughn's not going to really do anything to stop him. So I'm still going like 38 minutes Durant, 39 Kyrie, because I don't really feel comfortable walking it back. But I do think there's just some added volatility here where, if it was still Steve Nash, you've got a pretty nice sample of games now where it's just like, all right, this is what Kyrie Irving plays. This is what Kevin Durant plays. And we're obviously not talking about a big reduction in minutes, but at their price tags, even if you go from 38 to 36 or 39 to 36, it's going to make a pretty big difference. So I'm not super comfortable with it being the different coach, but I also still think it's more likely than not that these guys just play huge minutes.
Yeah, my guess is that Jacques Vaughn wants to win, and the best path for Brooklyn to win is to play Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving a lot right now, especially if you're like an interim coach. You could put as many miles on these guys right now as you want. I mean, like, obviously it seems like it's going to be Udoka sooner rather than later, but yeah, if I'm Jacques Vaughn, I want them to keep playing. I can't imagine be like, hey, can you guys just play 32? And they're going to be like, did you not just see how this shook out? We're going to go ahead and play 38 minutes.
Right.
And then we deal with the rest of this. Oh, actually, one follow-up. These guys are owned the same. Durant and Irving, it's the exact same amount of ownership. Who is your lean? Who is your preference? Or do you not have one?
I'm getting more Kyrie right now. Obviously could change, but both on DraftKings and FanDuel getting to a lot more Kyrie. I have them projected similarly. I have Durant slightly ahead. I think it's just a positional thing. I think there's a little bit more value that I'm getting to at the forward positions. Not saying that it's great value or value that I feel good about, but just guys that I can pay down for there and then, slot in Kyrie at one of the guard spots. So right now getting to quite a bit more Kyrie.
Okay. You and me both. My most exposed player on FanDuel right now at 9,700. And then we get to guys that are close to that same exposure. Royce O'Neal, 4,800 on both sites. It's his minutes that actually scare me a little bit more because he has been playing massive minutes, but he's Royce O'Neal and not Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. Are you making any changes here? Because he is chalky today.
I went 36, which is obviously a lot, but he's also averaging 37 and a half. So that is, walking it back a little bit. It's just another spot where I don't want to get I think if he plays that many minutes, to me, he's one of the best values on the slate. Not that he's a good fantasy producer. You're talking about somebody that gets like 2/3 of a fantasy point per minute, but he's just cheap enough where if he's going to play 36 minutes, he fits really nicely into a lot of lineups. So I don't want to just lose that because I decide that Jacques Vaughn's going to do something different when I have absolutely no idea what Jacques Vaughn's going to do. And Royce O'Neal does play a key role on this team. It's not like he's an interchangeable piece. He is better at what he does than anybody behind him. So that's one thing. It would be different too if, we'll talk about the bench on this team. I think that the minutes for guys off the bench is completely up in the air because Steve Nash obviously preferred Edmund Sumner to Cam Thomas. I have no idea what Jacques Vaughn thinks. I have no idea how Jacques Vaughn wants to use Watanabe, but it would be crazy. Royce O'Neal there's nobody comparable to Royce O'Neal that is going to play Royce O'Neal's role. So, maybe he plays 33 or 34 minutes and, just plays a little bit shorter rotations with the new coach. That's possible. But I don't want to just decide that's going to happen, lose out on all this Royce O'Neal, and then him just play his normal minutes and me be screwed.
Yeah, I took him to 36 as well. I didn't want to really give anybody the extra stuff other than Durant and Irving.
So I think I'm going to go 38 Kyrie, 37 Durant, 36 O'Neal.
There we go.
So it's kind of like
I don't even have to. If I give Kyrie 38, it's an even bigger problem. So I'm going to stick at 37.
Oh, you only had him at 37. I had him at 39 earlier.
Oh, so did I.
Oh, okay.
I still can't stop getting him. So I just kept walking. I started walking it back.
Yeah.
And then we get Nick Claxton. Ben Simmons now out for today, missing back-to-back, which is not good. But it is good for Nick Claxton, though. 5,800 on DraftKings, 5,900 on FanDuel. Open to play 30 minutes, I guess, or more in this spot. There's no reason to stop him from playing like legit full starter 30-plus minute run. I gave him 29 for right now. I still like him quite a bit at that mark, but I think there's upside in that number too.
So do I. I went to 30 and I'm not really confident in it. And again, this is a spot where like you look at yesterday's rotation, but then also that was a different coach. But like even yesterday, you look at that, he played 31 minutes. Watanabe closed that game over him. Potentially could have just played more. But yeah, I mean, I'm at 30 minutes. I think there is still some volatility here. The other thing I'm not really sure about with him is if you go back to like the start of last season, you take his rates, he's around, a fantasy point per minute guy. And that's what I'm going with here. I have him at like 1.06 DraftKings points per minute, but he's played around 100 minutes this year with Kyrie on the floor and Simmons off. Obviously, a lot of those were yesterday when he just smashed Indiana, but he's got a 20% usage rate and a 21% rebounding percentage in those minutes. So I'm not comfortable just saying like, oh, this is what Nick Claxton's going to do without Ben Simmons, but there's a real chance I think that me and everyone else are under projecting his per minute production when he's on the floor too.
Yeah. And that works for like, I love that upside at ownership where I'm basically 2x Claxton already. And I think he has minutes upside. And I think he has like general scoring upside. All of those things are check boxes in the positive way for me. Yep. So I love getting to Claxton here. Do you prefer Vooch to Claxton on DraftKings?
In the crunch I ran before the show, I got 37% Vooch and 27% Claxton.
Okay, there we go. What do we do with the rest of these guys? Because Watanabe is pulling some ownership here at 3,100, and that's not crazy because there's not a ton of pay down options, and 3,100 is a reasonable price, but he can play anywhere from 0 to 22 minutes today, and I'd believe it.
Yeah, he's one of the ones that I've kind of been going back and forth on today and been messaging you about. Here's how I'm thinking about Watanabe right now. So I ran a crunch this afternoon and got like 31% Watanabe on DraftKings. He's 3,100. And I was like, all right, like I hate getting to Watanabe, but it makes sense. I had him projected for like 16 DraftKings points. And it was like, all right, makes sense. Like I get it. But the more I think about it, I really don't want to do that, I don't think, because there's kind of like, he's like the opposite of Claxton to me, where we just talked about like all this volatility with Claxton, and it's pretty much all pointing in the direction of him like overperforming his projection. For Watanabe, he played 22 minutes yesterday. First of all, he was in the closing lineup, which does not have to happen again. It could be Claxton, it could be anybody else. So that doesn't have to happen. So let's say 20 minutes instead of 22, like as a projection. Then you still have to have this guy actually produce. And if you go back to his career numbers or his time in Toronto, he was, a reasonable like 0.7, 0.75 fantasy point per minute guy. That is not what he's done in Brooklyn. And even if you go back to like the start of the preseason, you get like 130 minutes of Watanabe being on the floor, averaging like half a fantasy point or 0.55 DraftKings points per minute. He's not rebounding at the same rates that he was in Toronto. He's not getting usage. Not that he was ever a high usage guy, but he's getting less usage here. Like if you take his career rates, you would be projecting him for a higher usage rate than he's had in any game with Brooklyn. So I think that, sure, he could, like if he goes and gets 20 fantasy points today, you're probably in trouble if you don't have him with the way the slate looks. But there's so much downside risk here where he doesn't get the minutes that he's projected for, or he does, and he just keeps doing what he's been doing with Brooklyn, which is completely reasonable. And the ownership's coming in. That's the other thing. If this guy was like 2% owned, it would be easy to say, like, all right, well, what if he gets 20 minutes and I'm different? If 15 to 20% of the field is going to play this guy, I don't really see the advantage in doing it.
I'm with you. He could just as easily give these minutes to Markieff Morris with the Kansas Jayhawk connection.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's
Day'Ron Sharpe earlier.
It's different than the Royce O'Neal, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving stuff. There's no real reason a coach has to prefer Watanabe over Morris or playing Cam Thomas for minutes. Patty Mills, obviously different positions, but you're talking about a team where they have a lot of players that can play multiple positions. Patty Mills has been playing like 6 minutes a game recently under Nash.
Yeah.
He could just come back out and play like 12, 16 minutes. There's nothing stopping that. Edmund Sumner has been a scorer off the bench for them. They could just go to him more. Like there's so many ways this can go under a new coach. If Steve Nash were coaching this game, I wouldn't be very confident in Watanabe, but I'd be a little bit more confident just because we've seen him sort of be that guy that's like steps in and fills some holes.
Yeah.
Now I'm even less confident because not only are you talking about a shitty fantasy point per minute guy, but I have no idea how many minutes he's going to play under a new coach. I will say, like, if you want to read into stuff, Durant was very complimentary of him in his post game yesterday. So I mean, take that for what it's worth. But he also was asked specifically about him. It's not like he just came out of left field and was like, Watanabe's been great. He was asked what he thought, and he was complimentary. But I gave him 20 minutes, but I also projected him to do what he's done with Brooklyn, and it gets me like I think 13-point projection on him, and at that ownership, it's just not going to get there.
Yeah, it's one of them where if Yuta Watanabe is the key to the slate, I'm willing to just not win today's slate, I think, because it just seems overly risky at that current ownership on DraftKings. And he's less interesting on FanDuel. By the way, he's a shooting guard on FanDuel today.
Watanabe?
Yeah. He's the backup center. His team. Anything else here for the Nets?
If you want, so I do think it's kind of interesting because there are a lot of cheap guys on the Nets. So you have $3,100 Watanabe that like everybody's playing, projected for 18% ownership. Edmund Sumner, we have projected for 6% ownership. He's a better scorer. He's a better point per minute guy. I'm projecting him for fewer minutes, but I think there's just a lot of volatility here where if I do have to go that route, I kind of like the idea of getting the Sumner more than getting the Watanabe. I just think he's got the higher ceiling.
Opening night, Day'Ron Sharpe played 22 minutes and Watanabe played 8. Like, there's no reason it can't just be Sharpe.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's
just hard.
That's another really good point. So I have Sharpe at 12 minutes right now. Purely based on the rotation, on Steve Nash's rotations. Sharpe had basically lost his spot in the rotation when Simmons is in because you were getting Simmons and Claxton staggered. And then when Simmons is out, you were getting basically, Claxton played his 30, Sharpe played like 12, and Kevin Durant got, the other 6 basically. But there's no this could just be 30-18 or 32-16 split between those guys. So yeah, Day'Ron Sharpe's another one where 1% projected ownership at 3,400. He is center only, so that sucks. But like he's a good point per minute guy if you just get lucky on the minutes.
Anything else for Brooklyn?
For a team that's supposedly prioritizing defense, they are really bad at defense.
Yeah, for sure. That one, I mean, that's like the best take in the world. But absolutely incredible. They want to get better defensively, but the guy that's the best defensive player on their team is also trash. So it's a really interesting dynamic going on here in chat. Anyway, NBA Live before lock coming up next at 6:30. They will take you all the way up until lock. And it's going to be probably a pretty wild final half hour here because at lock, we might be getting a little bit more news on Orlando and OKC. You'll have all of the build up to the 7:30 games. It's going to be a fun one. So make sure you're tuning in. Hit that like button. 2,300 people in here, 200 likes. They're going to get a lot of views for today because there's a lot in flux. What's not in flux is the Golden State Warriors, who are, I don't know, vanilla ice cream on today's slate. Everybody that plays normal minutes, Curry, Wiggins, Green, Poole, Thompson, Looney, all look pretty similar for ownership. They're basically the same. What do you do here for Golden State? Because I don't have anybody that just stands out.
Neither do I. It's a tough matchup, and I think the pricing is just pretty much where it should be. And then the other issue that you run into with it being a shorter slate is that this team's just going to get some ownership. It's not like it's, a massive slate where you can get, 5% owned Steph. He's pulling 14% ownership. Wiggins is at 13, Clay's at 16. So there's just not much that really stands out to me there. The one exception being that Kevon Looney looks good, I think, from a value standpoint. I'm getting like 30% on DraftKings. I had 20% in a FanDuel crunch I ran a while ago. And the reasoning is just that we've seen him closing out some games, and especially if Golden State's ahead, it's relatively likely they go to him for defensive reasons. He did close their last game against Miami, which was, I think, 2 or 3 games ago for them. Played 29 minutes in that game. No guarantee that happens again, but he's not very expensive. He's a 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute guy. There's not a lot of good value on this slate. You're talking about people playing Yuta Watanabe at higher ownership than Kevon Looney. I'll take my chances on Looney, a guy that like actually is a real part of his team. He's averaging 23 minutes per game this year, so it's not like projecting him for 24 minutes is a crazy number. And I certainly think that there is upside for more. So it's not a spot where like I'm super confident because it's Kevon Looney and it's a Steve Kerr rotation. But name the value guys you are confident in today because I don't think they exist.
I'm having trouble getting there. I gave him 23 minutes. I'm having trouble getting there on FanDuel at the 4,800 mark. I actually thought that I would get a little bit more. Just doesn't seem to be happening right now. I think center is just sort of overloaded at this point, and I don't know if moving him to power forward is going to be great. But the $4,100 price on DraftKings, I mean, the idea of him playing 28 minutes and needing to get to 30 fantasy points, that seems very reasonable to me. So I like him a little bit more on DK, even though he is just center eligible. After that, I mean, I'm getting to more Clay than anybody else from the Warriors, but as far as I'm concerned, that's basically random. I'll take whatever I get from any of these guys.
Yeah, like there's obviously a ceiling for them, and actually it's the same for me on DraftKings. So in that crunch I did before the show, I got like 30% Looney. My next highest Stone Golden State guy was Clay at 10%, Wiggins at 4, Draymond at 3. Not going to be upset if I get like a little bit more because clearly there is upside. It's just they project worse for me than I think pretty much any other team.
Yeah, Clay is just interesting to me because he's got that extra eligibility on FanDuel. He's shooting guard, small forward, and that sort of flexibility at 5,500. Because I think like at some point in time, his minutes are going to go up. And last time out, Clay played 32 minutes. Like, yeah, I'm not giving him 32 minutes. I have but like we showed that he can play 32 minutes. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of it is 29 needs to start falling.
Yeah, and I assume that'll happen for one of the greatest shooters that have ever played basketball.
Yeah, I don't remember who I was doing a show with the other day. He may never get back to what he was, but the gap between what he is right now and what he was is big enough that there should be a solid middle ground he can find.
Him being worse defensively means nothing to me based on these injuries. Is he going to be a slightly worse shooter? Sure. Does that make him a 40% shooter instead of a 42% shooter or something? Maybe. I'll take it.
So how many minutes did you go to on Clay?
29.
Okay, I went 28.
Okay.
I went 28 Clay, 29 Draymond, 29 Poole.
29 the game before the 32 in OT. Like I think he's probably just there.
Yeah.
Something about facing Miami like makes me think that like I like it a little bit more. Anytime these teams are playing like good teams, I always feel like they're going to do it correctly. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. I'll go I don't think it's going to make a big difference, but the extra minute isn't going to hurt.
Then we go to the Miami side and wondering if you changed your tune. These guys are kind of like Golden State in terms of ownership. I just think they're better plays by quite a bit. What'd you say?
I said, and lack of interest.
Yeah. At 16, 19, 19, 15, 12, 12. All these guys are like around 15% owned on DraftKings. They're all in the 20s on FanDuel, 27, 23, 20, 20, 20, 28. I think they all should be getting that sort of ownership. That's how they're coming out of my sims as well. I'm getting to everybody. I'm getting to no one more than Bam at 35% on the FanDuel side. But talk to me about Miami now. Do they look different to you than they did this morning?
They look a little bit more appealing than they did this morning, but still generally the same. I'm getting to tons and tons of Bam, whether you're talking DraftKings or FanDuel. I think he looks great, just underpriced, pace up spot. He's averaging 35 minutes per game this year. He's coming off of a couple of games in a row where he played 37 and a half, because I actually tried to walk back his projection a little bit based on how much I was getting, and I was like, he's playing 37 or 38 minutes when he's not in foul trouble. I can't bring him back to like 33 for no reason. So going 35 minutes there, and he looks really good. After that, I'm kind of just mixing and matching guys. Got to like 15% Lowry on DraftKings right now, 10% Butler, 6% Hero. On FanDuel, getting a lot more, like you said. Still getting a lot of Bam, getting like 22% Butler, getting 10% Hero, getting a bunch of Caleb Martin there as well as a value option. But it's a pace-up spot. It's just the issue that I run into with Miami, with the exception of Bam, and even kind of with Bam, because you do have Vooch in that price range. You do have Claxton that I want to get to, but there's just enough center spots that I can still do it. The issue I run in with everyone else is like, I think Jimmy Butler looks pretty good. I think Banchero looks better. I think that paying down at Ford in a lot of spots makes sense. So that makes it kind of tough. Like Tyler Hero looks fine, but there's a lot of guards I like today that just look better to me. Kyle Lowry, sort of fits in at 6,100, but he's not anything I'm like really excited to get to either. So outside of Bam, on DraftKings specifically, it's not even so much that I don't like them because I do like the spot. I think that the prices are pretty fair. It's just that from a roster construction standpoint, I'm having some issues getting to everyone except for Bam.
Only one that I'm light on is Lowry. $6,500 price tag on FanDuel. He's not all that appealing from a fantasy perspective for me, but I've got 20+% of all these guys. I can't really get away from any of it. And that's including Max Strus and Caleb Martin. And these guys are better plays on FanDuel than they are in DK. Martin is $400 cheaper, dual eligibility. Strus is $400 cheaper, dual eligibility. Hero's $300. They both have the MPE. Bam's got the MPE on FanDuel. Butler's got the MPE on FanDuel. They're just a lot easier to work into lineups for a 4-game slate on the FanDuel side than they are on the DraftKings side.
So this is a good question, I think, from Under Pressure Productions. He said maybe it just looks good because it was posted under something Brandon Cat said, so it just seems smart. But he said if a player isn't in a pace-up spot, does that make them a less appealing play? No, because and this is somebody tweeted this earlier and it came up on Twitter, but like you don't want to double count it. A lot of like us talking about pace-up spots is just describing why somebody projects well. So like it's accounted for in projections. So you don't want to like look at Jimmy Butler's projection and then say, oh yeah, but it's a pace-up spot. Like it's there, it's included, but it's more just describing why it's an appealing spot for Miami. They should get more possessions than average going against Golden State. And one big part of DFS pricing is just taking into account players' average production. So a lot of times when you get players in a pace-up spot, they're just going to look underpriced because they're priced for their average number of possessions per game. And now they're playing a game where they're going to get X number more possessions and just be underpriced. So that's why it comes up. But no, like you shouldn't say, like if Steph's projected for 45 points here or 45 points against a slow team, well, this is a slow. If Jimmy Butler's projected for 40 points here or 40 points against a slow team, you shouldn't really care.
Yeah, it's the same scenario. It's already coming out in the wash. Yeah, like for example, I have that. So Miami is gaining like 3 possessions over their average for this spot, which is basically like 1.5 additional to Jimmy Butler that he wouldn't have otherwise, that he just gets from the pace of the game. So we have to use some sort of descriptive words to tell you how that fantasy point projection is getting cooked, but ultimately, yeah, if you're looking at it and thinking like I'm trying to target games that have a high pace, you're generally double counting that right out of the gate. So it's good that you brought that up. Alrighty. Anything else for Miami? Are you still getting all of the Gabe Vincent, by the way?
Oh, no, I meant to check that. I do still think he's like a reasonable value, but in the crunch I did on DraftKings, I got like 2%. So not the 15 or whatever the hell I had this morning.
Sounds like you dialed it in.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about BetMGM. They are the sponsor of this show. You can see the banner at the top of the screen. You can see a banner at the bottom of the screen. I'm not entirely sure what you're laughing at. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to continue with my read. If you have not signed up at BetMGM yet and you live in a legal betting state, there is a link in the description of this video. Click it, head to BetMGM, make a little bit of a deposit, and then all you'll have to do is put $10 down on an NBA money line tonight. If you do that, you will get $200 in free bets. All you need is someone to make a 3 in that game. That is an absolute guarantee. So you're going to get $200 in free bets. You can use Odd Shopper after that to try and make some picks a little bit better. You can go into our Discord. We've got the premium betting picks as well. That can help you out moving forward. But for right now, just take advantage of the free $200, man. It's only worst case scenario, you're out $10. You really can't ask for a better deal. Soft spot?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. I tried to figure it out. Yeah. Thought so. All right, let's go to Orlando. We got word before this show started that Jalen Suggs is going to be in for today. What that means, I do not know. But he is back, and that is the most important piece here. We've got Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, and Wendell Carter Jr. all 15 to 20% owned on the DK side. Carter Jr. 37% owned on FanDuel. Franz Wagner 23. Banchero just 18. Makes me like Banchero even more, but he is 8,500 there. How are you handling Orlando? Let's start with the three guys that have been playing.
So Banchero still looks really good to me. His ownership is still at 19% on DraftKings, which I think is low. I'm likely to be over that. In the crunch I did earlier, he was my third highest owned guy, and that's behind Royce O'Neal and Trey Mann. So of my highest owned guys, he's the one that I'm most confident in. He just looks really good. I would have liked him even more if Suggs weren't going to play, and I would like him a little bit more if we get news that like Suggs is extremely limited or coming off the bench. But for now, I'm assuming you're getting like 26 minutes from Suggs. So I'm basically just using the games that Banchero played with Cole Anthony active as a proxy for what to expect tonight. And so you're still talking about, around the 30% usage rate, double-digit assist percentage, double-digit rebounding percentage. He's averaging about 33 minutes per game. He just looks really, really good. And then with this ownership coming in where it is, it's pushing him up even more for me.
I'm getting quite a bit right now. He is a little bit harder to get to on FanDuel because of the price, but MPE helps. 18% owned. I've got 32. I'm going straight back to Banchero, and I'm happy about it. That usage rate is appealing. Let's talk through Suggs. Minutes-wise, it's a complete question mark. When we get a lineup, that will probably happen at 7:29, 7:31, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
What is your assumption heading into just regular lock if we don't hear anything?
That Suggs is starting and playing 26 minutes. I don't really know. I'm trying to think. So at the beginning of the year, he started right when he came back, but I think that was like he was supposed to come off the bench, but Cole Anthony had like an illness or something, and so Suggs got inserted into the starting lineup. Yeah. But yeah, like I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes off the bench, but for now, I'm just assuming that he starts and that Bol goes back to the bench. But it is a really, really important piece of information because even knowing he's playing, I still think that what role he's playing matters in terms of how this rotation looks.
I got him in for 25 minutes right now. That could potentially go up. I'm hoping we just get a little bit of word or someone like asks him the question what to do. I honestly could see them using him on the second unit more than starting, just based on the way that this has been set up. But it's Orlando. They don't have a lot of talent at the end. You probably just want your best guys to be out there as much as possible. I don't know if Jalen Suggs is one of their best guys. They want him to be. He has not been. But, I mean, we're talking about a guy that I project for 47% true shooting. That's about as bad as it gets to get anybody into a starting lineup. That said, can we play him today?
I think on FanDuel you can, as long as he's not getting much ownership. At 5,900 on DraftKings, I don't really think you can get there. Unless, I mean, maybe if we get word like Jalen Suggs has no minutes restrictions, expected to play like full minutes, which you're not going to get. At best, you're probably going to get Jalen Suggs will have his minutes monitored, which typically means he's playing like starter-ish minutes. But 5K on FanDuel, as long as the ownership's not very high, I do think is interesting just because we know this is somebody that's not afraid to shoot. And if he happens to shoot better than normal, he can light it up. But 5,900 on DraftKings, I think is a lot more difficult to get to.
Dosunmu in. Kobe White's still a game time decision. Going to go through warmups to see how he feels, but the real chip has fallen. With Dosunmu in, I don't think the bench of the Bulls is all that appealing any longer.
Yeah, agreed. Dosunmu's the really big piece there that was potentially going to open the door for, not only Alex Caruso to play a lot, but Patrick Williams to play more as well.
There anything else here for Orlando? Terrence Ross is 4,400 on FanDuel with an MPE. Bol has been playing a bit more now. He's 5,700 on DraftKings and 5,800 on FanDuel. Just a center, though, on FanDuel. So you can go ahead and throw that one directly into the garbage for today. What do we do with the rest of this Orlando team? Is there anything else to do?
So I kind of mentioned Banchero before. Carter and Wagner look good as well. I think that goes without saying. I think Banchero looks better, but like all three of those guys are strong plays. But I think Jalen Suggs, or what is happening with Jalen Suggs, has an impact on everything else because we've seen Bol starting. And Obviously, that's good for his playing time. If he goes back to the bench, and at this point he's 5,700 on DraftKings, even if I give him like 24, 25 minutes off the bench, it's really tough for me to want to get there. If he's starting, then I think that's an indication that Suggs is playing less than the 26 minutes I have him in for, which means that Bol can play more and potentially be a reasonable option at 5,700. Also, if Bol is starting, I think it's likely that Mo Bamba is the backup center. Bamba's only $3,500 on DraftKings. That's a pretty interesting value option if you think he's going to get most or all of the minutes behind Wendell Carter Jr. If Bol is coming off the bench with Suggs starting, my expectation is that Bamba's probably in the rotation, but probably not playing all of the backup center minutes. So I think it's more likely you're getting like 7, 8, 9 minutes from Bamba, and then Bol's playing the other minutes behind Carter. So like I'm not playing Bamba if that's the case. But if Bol is starting, I think it's likely that you're getting, 15-ish minutes from Mo Bamba at 3,500.
I'm with you there. I'm interested in his ownership. Like, I don't think 12 holds on Bamba.
I mean, so that's
like, I hope it does.
I think it holds if projections across the industry stay how they are. I just disagree with them.
Yeah. I hope it holds.
Assuming that, again, assuming Suggs starts. If Suggs comes off the bench, then I completely agree with the way he's being projected.
Correct. Anything else on the Orlando side?
Chuma Okeke is no worse than Watanabe.
That's a great point.
Like, yeah. I'm not really playing any of them, I don't think, but they should not be viewed very differently.
No, they should not. 3,900 on FanDuel, just power forward eligible of all the guys. And then small forward, power forward on DK, 3,600. Yeah, I like that shout. Wasn't something I was thinking of. And then we get to what is now the biggest mess on the slate, but in all actuality, might have just saved us a gigantic headache of like a bunch of other guys. Josh Giddey went from out today to now questionable. The large majority of times that you see someone be a late add to the injury report, that person is now actually going to play. When this show ends, I am going to be putting Josh Giddey into the Oklahoma City starting lineup straight away. Will you be doing the same?
Yeah, and as just to point out how important it is, I know I've been referencing my exposures on DraftKings a lot during the show. They are essentially useless if Josh Giddey plays because Trey Mann was my second highest owned player, and that will be going away. I won't be getting nearly as much Shea. So, definitely just keep in mind to take those sort of with a grain of salt, as you always should when somebody's talking about their exposures, because it doesn't necessarily mean you do or don't like somebody. It's just, there can be a variety of reasons you're getting to them. But my exposures are just going to change because Trey Mann is not going to be showing up in half of my lineups.
No, he is not. I am really, really fascinated with this. This will change basically everything. Are you going to go to, let's just assume he's in, you're projecting. You going 32 for Giddey or 30?
Yeah, 30, 32.
Okay.
It's actually kind of funny too that it went that route. I don't think I said it on the show this morning, but I was thinking it. I was expecting this to be the day where you get the 5 p.m. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander downgrade the questionable, and they just run the garbage unit against Orlando. I was not expecting Giddey to reemerge in this one.
So let's say Giddey, Shea, Dort, Wiggins, Poku? Right? Is Giddey just Giddey for man and that's it?
I think so. Yeah, I was trying to pull up. So
obviously, I'm not super comfortable in saying it's Poku or whatever the hell they do with the rest of that. But right out of the gate, we're thinking swap Giddey man.
Yeah. So I was going back to try and see. We haven't gotten a really good rotation with Giddey. So the last time Giddey was playing, the last game Giddey played, Gilgeous-Alexander sat on the second half of the back-to-back. The game before that, you didn't have Wiggins in the starting lineup yet. So the starting lineup was Giddey, Gilgeous-Alexander, Dort, Poku, Robinson, Earl. Now I'm assuming you're just replacing Robinson, Earl with Wiggins.
Yeah.
Poku could be Poku, Robinson, Earl, Baisley, Williams. It can be anybody. But last game was Poku. So for now, my guess at the starting lineup is Giddey, SGA, Dort, Wiggins, Poku.
Is man just off the table now? Figure he plays 24 minutes or something, maybe.
So he played 23 and 28 in the games where Giddey was in and so was SGA. In the most recent game, 28.5 minutes off the bench. He was in the closing lineup. I think he.
That was also no Jalen Williams at that point, too.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah. So, but like in that game, they had all of Giddey, SGA, Man, and Dort on the floor together.
Yes.
So, like, I think there's still a path to more 28 for Man, but like my projection is going to go from 28 to 24 probably.
Yeah, I went to 24 so far. I'm trying to build this on the fly. Let's go to really the most important part here.
Well,
what is this student
on Man?
Ooh, yeah, go for
it. In addition to, like, if he doesn't start, cutting his minutes back, one reason he's been so productive this year is that he's been having his minutes staggered with SGA. So he's just been running that second group and has like a 27% usage rate. You're most likely going to get SGA and Giddey's minutes staggered now, which would mean, or at least somewhat staggered, which would mean very few, if any, minutes where Man is not sharing the ball with either SGA or Giddey. So it's going to cut into his rates as well.
What does this do to Jalen Williams, who is the chalk value play today? I think
I'm not sure it does anything, but it makes him riskier, I think.
Sure.
So the reason I'm not sure it does anything is I can't find the game. But in their first game of the season, I want to double check it. I'm almost positive he was first guy off the bench, and it looked like he was going to play a bunch of minutes. And
he only played 6 minutes before he broke his face. So
right. But I'm saying, like,
tough.
The rotation looked like he was going to get a lot of minutes.
I mean, they really like him. He was great in summer league / preseason. Like that, he is a piece, and you see it in the 27 minutes that he got yesterday or 2 days ago or whenever the hell that was.
Yeah, so like I think he's still playing a lot of minutes. Giddey coming back just makes it riskier because it just allows them to run an even deeper rotation if they want to. But I think he's playing mid-20s regardless. Like when I did the rotation earlier, I was certainly giving minutes to guys that I didn't really want to give minutes to. Gave 6 minutes to Isaiah Joe. I gave minutes to both of Muscala and Robinson Earl. There's no reason that like Robinson Earl can't just not play and Joe doesn't play, and you get more, Baisley center minutes, and it just opens it up for the wings. So I still think you're getting mid-20s minutes in Williams. There's just more ways for it to go wrong now.
You want to build this on the fly? Just throw minutes at the table, see where we end up, because I got the 250 total now, and I'm finding it really difficult to trim 10 more. So I think it could be an interesting exercise if you want to do it.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think we can do it pretty quickly. All right. We're assuming Giddey. You want to go 30 or 32 here?
So that's what I was pulling off. I wanted to see. I think I want to go 30.
Okay.
He was
First 2 games of the season, 34, 33.
So as a starter last year with SGA, he averaged 31 minutes per game. And then
30 feels safe.
Back from the light off. I think 30 makes sense.
Okay. 35 for Shea?
Yeah.
24 for Trey?
Yeah.
Okay. 31 for Dort, but something in that 30-something range.
Yeah, I have 32, but yeah.
Okay. Now is where it starts to get weird. Jalen Williams. I have 26.
I had 26. I kind of...
Feels like it should become 24 now.
I was going to say, I kind of want to go 24.
Poku.
24.
I had 24. Okay.
So if he's starting, I'm still going 24.
Okay. So there's 24 apiece for those two guys. We don't have a ton of minutes left over. So we've got Wiggins, assuming he's starting 26. Okay.
Yeah, 26 works too.
If I go 26, we have 26 minutes left over, and we've projected 8 guys. Muscala, JRE. We have not given any minutes to Darius Baisley at this point yet.
Or Kenrich Williams.
Oh, sorry. I still had Williams in here. So we have 46 minutes for 7 guys so far.
Okay, I was going to say, how the hell are we doing this?
Kenrich Williams, 18.
Yeah, it seems reasonable.
Baisley, 18.
Sure.
If we give Baisley 18 and we give Kenrich Williams 18, we have 10 minutes left over for, I would assume, Muscala over JRE, but one of the two of them.
Yeah, that's my guess, is that one of them does not play. And my guess would be Robinson Earl, which probably means Robinson Earl's going to start. But
at that point, we just hit 10 guys, all 240 minutes. I will backtrack and repeat everything that we just said, because I think this is important. Shea 35, Dort 31 is what I have in here right now. Giddey 30, Wiggins 26, Poku 24, Jalen Williams 24, Trey Mann 24, Baisley 18, Kenrich Williams 18, Muscala 10. Seems about right. At which point, I don't think really anything looks good for this team.
Yeah, because the thing is, like SGA obviously is still a good play, but he's nowhere near as good, and his price tag has come up as a result of Giddey being out. His rates come down with Giddey in. If Giddey, we're assuming he's playing 30-ish minutes, he's 7,300 on DraftKings. You're not getting any sort of a discount there. You can still gamble on Williams and Poku. I think they're cheap enough. Like Poku, if he's starting, I should say. Williams off the bench at 3,900, but definitely want to pay attention to their ownership too, because I do think there's just, even though I think Williams still looks good, there's more downside risk. Obviously, like that rotation that we just mapped out, once you get past like SGA, Giddey, Dort, it can go a million directions. So there's just even more downside risk now. So I think Williams looks like a good value still, but I'm gonna want to definitely pay attention to the ownership as well.
Yeah, like I think Poku's probably the best play for OKC on DraftKings now, assuming he just maintains that same spot. But I can go either direction there.
It's either him or Williams, I think.
Right.
Actually, I'll do Dort.
I think Shea is essentially unplayable on FanDuel at 10-8.
So I'm trying to remember. Do you remember off the top of your head how much Dort's production goes down when they're both in?
A lot. He doesn't get that crazy usage bump any longer. Like he's a 0.83 guy baseline. That's where I have him right now. To me, he's like not all that interesting at this point. He's 6,300 on FanDuel. Like that's impossible. Giddey at 7,300. I don't really have much interest in that. The only guy on FanDuel that I got to a double-digit boom percentage is Poku at 11. Okay, OKC went from like incredibly interesting to I think the worst team on the slate.
Yeah, so I guess I got my wish this morning when I said I really hated how much OKC I was getting to.
It's really, really crazy. But the way that we just talked through those minutes, the rates that I have in here right now, I anticipate being incredibly light on OKC, barring them just hemorrhaging all of this ownership. And there's a decent chance that doesn't happen because of Giddey's Q tag. I think a lot of this ownership is going to hold. Fascinating spot for the Thunder. Do you have anything else you want to add here? I can't advocate for these guys any longer. I mean, I can advocate for Shea at 9,400 on DraftKings no matter what. That price tag to me still works, even with Giddey back.
Yeah, it's just not as appealing. Like I was getting like 40% before. I don't think I get that much now. Like he's gonna. The issue is now Kyrie's gonna look a lot better than SGA at the same price point.
Yes, but 10-8 for Shea on FanDuel. If he goes for 65 plus today, you could have it.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up how much SGA fell off last year with Giddey.
By the way, guys, 3,300 people in here, 345 likes, and we just gave you the full Oklahoma City breakdown rotationally for news that is up in the air. So if you liked it, hit that thumbs up, reward us. We got Live Before Lock coming up in about 10 minutes.
So last year, 43 games with Giddey, SGA 1.18 DraftKings points per minute, 29.5% usage rate, 29.3% assist percentage in 34.5 minutes per game. 18 games without Giddey, 1.49 DraftKings points per minute. So you're talking like a third of a fantasy point per minute. 34.7% usage rate. So usage jumped 4 to 5 points. 35.5% assist percentage. So that also jumped like 5 points. And he averaged an extra minute per game.
Fascinating stuff. Unfortunately, we already got the news. Josh Giddey available to play.
Yeah.
That sucks, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I wish that didn't happen.
Agreed.
But there, everything that we just did is valuable, and most of Oklahoma City isn't. That's all I got. Yeah, like when I pulled rates, Shea went to 1.25 fantasy points per minute, and that seems about right. So anything else for OKC?
No, I think that's it. Just even more of a dumpster fire team than usual now, even though they, are obviously better now.
All right, let's close this out then. Minnesota Timberwolves, 4-point dogs in Phoenix, 227 total. Not much to worry about here. We're waiting on a Q tag on Kyle Anderson and on Jordan McLaughlin. I don't think that matters all that much. I don't think Minnesota looks very good in this spot. You're getting 10 to 15% ownership on Edwards, Towns, Gobert, and Russell on the DraftKings side. They're less owned than that on FanDuel. I like Anthony Edwards most of anybody here, but I don't really have a giant priority for anything from Minnesota.
I'm guessing I get to more of them now since I'm losing a lot of OKC, most likely. I was
Yeah.
already getting a pretty decent amount of Towns and Edwards. Got like 19% Edwards on DraftKings earlier, got 20 to 25% Towns. Wouldn't be surprised if those go up a little bit, although I guess I did lose some of my value that would let me get to them as well. But I do like both of those guys. I think Gobert looks pretty good as well. But the issue with Gobert is that he's center only, and he's not named Vucevic, Claxton, or Adebayo, or I guess in my case, Looney. Oh, God, I'm going to get so much Looney now if I'm going to lose OKC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the issue with Gobert. I think if you can get to him, fine, but it's kind of tough. Whereas Towns has power forward eligibility. Edwards has shooting guard, small forward. Those guys look really good to me. Russell seems fine, but he's a step back at 7K for me.
Yeah, only guy that I'm getting to on FanDuel was Edwards. We'll see how that changes now with OKC looking significantly different because I am going to have to redistribute some ownership. But like $9,300 Towns on FanDuel, good, not great. Gobert is $8,700. There's just better center values out there. Russell and McDaniels, I think, are priced appropriately. I just don't have a lot on the Minnesota side. I'm kind of bummed, but I think they do look a lot better on DK than they do on FanDuel. So there's also that.
Yeah. To double back real quick too, to drop Rose's point, he said a top 5 guard in the league can still get his regardless of who's back, without getting into whether SGA is a top 5 guard in the league. He can still get his. The issue here is that like everything's on a sliding scale. So if you tell me SGA is going to be like 1% owned now, then cool, I'll still play some SGA and just hope that he goes out there and does his thing. But he's not going to be 1% owned most likely. He's still going to be getting enough ownership where you're at a point where he's just a little bit over projected because his price is based on what he's done recently, which is with Giddey out, and with Giddey in, he doesn't project as well. So it's all a sliding scale. There's certainly an ownership number though where I would gladly just start playing a bunch of SGA again.
I know I missed a couple super chats.
It is right now.
I want to try to hit on these super chats quickly before we get to Phoenix. Julio G said, Adam, you said the other day that you would allow 4 players from the same team at times, but we'll make a rule that if 4 from the same team are included, you want someone from the opposing team. How do we do that on Fantasy Cruncher? Groups.
Yeah, so advanced options, groups, auto create group, loop teams, check off all the positions under the include key players box from the same team, and then check off all the positions from the next one that says players to include, switch that to opposing team, choose however many fantasy points minimum you want. And then it says set groups to use, just change it to say like if 3 or more, or if 4 or more, or whatever you want, use at least 1 or at least 2 or whatever from the opposing team.
Teddy Wayman said, just got here. Favorite pay up on FanDuel. Thanks, guys. For me, it's Irving at 9,700, but I think the other legitimate answer is Kevin Durant at 10,400. I think those are the only 2 answers on FanDuel for favorites.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah. It's not SGA. It's not Curry.
Yeah.
Kobe White out. Any impact to you?
More minutes for Caruso and maybe Dragic?
Yeah, it's not going to be a lot because with all the starters in, Kobe White, like before we had Dosunmu out and before we had Levine out, Kobe White's minutes in the previous 2 games were 12 and 10.
But I guess what I want to, does Dragic get to 20 minutes? Because he's 3,300 on DraftKings.
I mean, they can give those minutes, they can give them to like Dalen Terry if they want for 12 minutes. Just to, like, Kobe White is not a real part of this rotation based on the previous 2 games.
No, I know, but
like when everybody was healthy.
We don't have value here. So I'm saying like Dragic has played 19, 23, and 22 minutes in games this year. So like physically he can. If Dragic plays 20 minutes today at 3,300, he's probably the best value play on the slate.
I think I'm going to go to like 18 on Dragic, probably like 22, 24 on Caruso.
I was going 24 on Caruso anyway.
Oh, interesting. Why?
Because I think that's what he plays.
I mean, he's only getting more minutes in games where one of Levine or Dosunmu are out. The 3 games that they had where everybody was in, it was 23, 18, and 16.
I guess I was high then.
Yeah. It's usually me. Yeah, like White's not like outside of DeRozan, Levine, no, no one plays.
Jones was in the rotation though, and not playing center.
That's fair. We do have to account for that. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about Drummond.
Yeah, I'll say I know I projected this out and had no didn't. It's not like I was short on minutes.
Yeah, I could see Tony Bradley playing today.
Yeah, I mean they could go that route. I think Dragic doesn't need to pick up that many minutes to be a better option than Watanabe and the other shit people are going to play.
That is a good point. Something I'm going to dig into when we finish this up. Let's end it with Phoenix. Booker, Bridges, Paul, all about 20% owned on the DK side. It's a very different story on FanDuel. Booker's 26, Bridges 24. Chris Paul today, 40% owned on FanDuel, and I agree with it. That's what's crazy. Cam Johnson's 30% owned. I was hoping that he wouldn't get that much ownership. I like the Phoenix side of this one because they're in a really nice pace up spot. I'm not double counting that. It's just a descriptor.
Yeah, so this team, I think even more so than Miami, is very, very different to me, depending on what site you're talking about. Maybe it changes a little bit now that I can't just jam OKC and everywhere on DraftKings. But on FanDuel earlier, I was getting a ton of Phoenix, whether that's Chris Paul, Biyombo, Johnson, Booker, Bridges. Like I was north of 20% on all of those guys. I was north of 35 on Booker, Johnson, Biyombo, north of 60 on Paul. So just basically jamming in Phoenix on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I wasn't getting as much, but now losing that value, maybe I do get to some more Cam Johnson. Maybe I do get to some more Biyombo, / Landale. So I think there's a lot of ways to go here. The one spot that I do think is really interesting to talk about, because you know what you're getting from Booker and Bridges and Paul. Those guys are pretty much just they are what they are. DeAndre Ayton being out, that does open up some more usage. So it does make me like Booker a little bit more, Paul a little bit more than I otherwise would. But Jock Landale, 5K on DraftKings, pulling 11% ownership. Biyombo, 5,500, pulling 6% ownership.
Nuts.
That seems like a mistake to me. In the last game, Biyombo only played like 21 or 22 minutes, but he was in foul trouble in the first half. He was running rotations that would suggest he's playing 28 to 30 minutes when he's not in foul trouble. And then you're getting Landale as the backup. So I went 27 to Biyombo, 21 to Landale. I do think that there is volatility there, but Biyombo's about a fantasy point per minute guy. Landale's over a fantasy point per minute. I'm not playing them together, but I just like the idea of getting to both of these guys across lineups.
Yeah, the Biyombo ownership on DraftKings in relationship to Landale makes no sense to me, given the rotations we saw before. I would love to be getting to Biyombo on the DK end. I am getting to Biyombo on the FanDuel side at 5K, 14% projected ownership. I've got 21. I went to the 27-21 split as well, mostly to see if I got Landale at that mark. I didn't really get him, unfortunately. But the more likely scenario for me is that I actually think that it should go the other direction. I don't want to overcorrect the other way because I do want to get Biyombo. I think he's going to be playing real starter minutes. Now, he does have a matchup against Rudy Gobert and like two big guys, so foul trouble is imminent in this one.
Yeah, but the flip side to that is they're playing a massive front court also.
Yeah. It is going to be interesting.
Yeah, and keep in mind, because I'm as uncomfortable. I'm sure everybody's uncomfortable clicking on Biyombo, but we did this last year where it was kind of the same thing. Like Biyombo moves into the starting lineup, and everybody kind of assumed it was just going to be like a spot start type thing, and he just played like starter minutes, and it was just like, wait, is this really what we're doing with Biyombo? And it was. So yeah, like right now, again, this is all going to change because I lost OKC value, but I had like 15% Biyombo on DraftKings, and I am not upset if that gets to more. I would very much like some of this Kevon Looney that I was saying I'm going to get now with OKC to just become Biyombo and Landale also.
Let's sum it up. Who are your favorite plays for today before we turn it over to Live Before Lock?
Kyrie Irving, Vooch, Bam, O'Neal. The word favorite isn't what I would use, but he's showing up in a lot of my lineups.
All righty, folks. Thank you for joining us. You don't got to go anywhere. 3,600 people in here, 550 likes. You can get it even higher than that. 600, 650. Let's do that before we go to Live Before Lock. Stay right here. Don't go anywhere. You don't have to change anything. We're going to run it right back. Live Before Lock coming up next. Thanks, everybody.
All right, here we go. It's Hall of Fame time, baby, where we showcase all the big wins from the Stokastic family, hand out some subscriptions to Stokastic Plus Platinum, and induct you fine fellas into the Hall of Fame. Let's go. All you got to do to make your way into the Hall of Fame, very simple. Download the Stokastic profile picture at stokastic.com/avatar. Then use it wherever you play. Doesn't matter. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and tweet your wins to Stokastic Hall of Fame on Twitter at StokasticHOF. Not only are you getting here up on the board, brag to your friends, we'll do it for you, but you win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum on top of that too. Huge come up for anybody getting here on the board. Just like our boy, Steve Buzzard. Well, he doesn't need a subscription because he's working hard behind the scenes on these very tools that you're using, but a massive couple of days for him. The Colts with 200K wins in a night, follows it up the very next day, or a couple days later, not quite sure what it was, with $250,000, smashing the NBA game early on, and he left a little note. Whoever said everyone wins at NBA DFS must have been a Stokastic subscriber. Not a bad start to the season. No, not at all. Congrats, Steve. And congrats to you, David. Read Schmidt and Emacs NBA Top Plays article and blindly threw in a free roll lineup that had me solo first and $10,000. Gas station hot dogs are on me. Little reference to Matt Gajeski there. Next up, Lance Simpson. Got another one on No House Advantage. Thanks to Stokastic again for getting me to play at NHA. Yeah, just overlay Central over there. You're going to make money. And Steven took down 1,700 in the 50-cent mini-max. Love the VOD series. Massive ROI there. Coming up next, you got Josh. Feeling cute, might delete later. Listen, fantastic NHL analyst, $5,000 win, but that tweet made me insanely uncomfortable. Next up, you got Max. Distant second place, but good night. Great projections and insight on the show today. 750 again in the mini max. And remember, it doesn't matter if it's a 5 cent, 10 cent, $100 entry. As long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, rocking the avatar and tweet those wins to us at Stokastic HOF, you're in for the free month and the Hall of Fame. And Sky, NBA lineup generator, delivering the goods when I only had a few minutes before lock last night. And finally, our boy Hemi, Stokastic family dime package. Like I said, 10-cent entry, $75 win. Congrats to y'all. You've now been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Welcome back to those of you who have been there. Get that avatar and get inducted.
Just wild. I'm going.
I'm trying to think what other players that I know who definitely wouldn't have benefited. Brandon Cooks.
No. I think there were people speculating and buying some Cooks, and they just didn't pan out.
Pretty upset on mine.
Well, when the news broke on Chase Claypool, people went and bought Claypool. I just went and bought Deontay Johnson and just flipped some of the, like, those are going to be worth more in the next couple days as people start figuring it out.
What is going on, everybody? It's time for another Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock show. And for today, doesn't seem like we want to have too much injury shenanigans. A lot of that has already happened. And in terms of the injury report right now, it's fairly clean looking relative to what I think it's been in some of these other slates. Because right now, we've got nobody really significant listed as questionable. Kyle Anderson's questionable. Torrey Craig is questionable. Jordan McLaughlin is questionable, but nobody really significant. We got Josh Giddey upgraded from out to now expected to play. So, Eric, when we're looking at this slate, how do you feel about it?
I feel willy good. Hunting for rabbits. Little Elmer Fudd coming in. I don't know where that came from, but yeah. Toy Quag. He's gonna. I love that. But let's. I mean, it's Josh Giddey ruled in. I am bummed that news broke because anybody who's played NBA DFS before, they know that when you get a late ad like this, especially because OKC, they've been very liberal, or should I say, with their timing of injury reports or the urgency with which they put things out. They just are like, oh yeah, by the way, Josh Giddey's questionable now and probably going to play and now available to play. Humdy-dum-de-dum. Like, didn't even care about the 130 injury report.
This is the second time this has happened, and I think it's something just to take note of. Number one, for betting purposes, we're sponsored by BetMGM today, but then also going into slates, this is now the second time this season where we've had a player who is listed as out but practiced without any kind of restrictions the day before and then get upgraded to questionable and then in. We saw it with SGA with the hip injury. Someday last week, I forget exactly what day, and now it happened again with Josh Giddey. I think this is just a thing right now where OKC is just not updating their injury reports, and they are taking the same injury report from the game before and just being lazy and uploading. Be like, yeah, we'll fix it whenever.
Yeah, I tweeted out OKC with pretty much every injury report ever, and it's the SpongeBob procrastination. That one.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. I really think that they just copy and paste the injury reports from the day before. And then they just update it later on.
They don't care. What are people going to do? Punish OKC? They have 1 billion draft picks. They're sitting on a gold mine right now. Like OKC, it is very hard for me to imagine within 5 years not being a contender. Like a serious contender. Chet Holmgren, get him back healthy. The best thing possible is that Chet Holmgren looked great in the preseason, gets to the Las Frank injury, and now he's out for the season. Like the absolute best thing that ever could have happened to them, because I think they'd be contending for a back end with the play-in game, especially. Like if you have Chet Holmgren active, this is just an interesting basketball team with SGA, with Josh Giddey, who's, more middle of the road. I know you're pretty high on Josh Giddey, but I think that overall the makeup of the basketball team is young. It's solid. And with what? I think it's like 5 first rounders coming in the next 2 years. That's a ridiculous kind of quantity to be sitting on.
Yeah, it's also weird because there's so many teams at the bottom of the league that I think we expect to have bad records, but the teams themselves, it's not like they're totally hopeless because Josh Giddey, talented. SGA, obviously very talented. So on any given night, OKC could still beat some of these teams. So I really don't think they're terrible. But at the same time, too, how many teams? We've got a little more liberty to play with time here. Only 4 games. There's going to be going to be no real injury news that breaks here. At least not that we could foresee coming. If anything happens, it'd be something totally batshit crazy. I'm probably hoping for that, actually. But which teams in the Western Conference are you confident are worse than the Thunder?
Which teams am I confident in the Western Conference? I'm not confident that they're worse than the Lakers. I'm confident that they're worse than the Rockets. Like the Rockets are worse than OKC.
Yeah, I think Houston is worse.
I would say
Lakers might be worse.
That's what I was saying. But I'm not confident of it. You asked me if I'm confident. I'm not, because one has LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And say what you want about the team. If you found any way to run into shooting, you would have a pretty decent squad. They, for whatever reason, have not found shooting. Bojan Bogdanovic, my boy out there in Detroit, just living his life, doing the thing, be the perfect fit for the Lakers. But
he just signed a contract extension with the Pistons.
As he should, because he's a god. And it has been an absolute print fest. If you've been in the premium Discord, you know what I'm talking about. It has been Bojan Bogdanovic fest. Over on his points prop at 6 of 7. I mean, I could not love a basketball player more. Could not be possible.
And people can get access to your premium Discord channel 1 week for free. How do they do that, Eric?
Well, they could do that through GE Insider. You could also do it through EL Insider. So that's Greg, myself. We're hanging out, talking our bets all day. I just posted my betting card. It's been awesome. For me, it's really nice because I get kind of the best of both worlds. Obviously, I'm playing a lot of DFS, but over the course of the last couple of years, you've really fine-tuned my betting. I was able to get on a couple of unders on SGA as soon as that Giddey news dropped that he was upgraded to questionable. And so, I mean, it's so hard to be able to tell people that the time of the bet matters more than the bet itself. People just want to get the play and to relax and kick it. But you just have to be firing that stuff up immediately. Prize Picks had it listed for a little while there as well. Took the unders on him, paired it with a couple of things like Zach LaVine, I think makes some sense, and then got a little lucky because Kobe White now got ruled out of nowhere. Maybe an extra 2 minutes or so, or court time that they'd be sharing together, maybe a little bit more usage for Zach LaVine.
Yeah, Zach LaVine, somebody who I'm not sure what his point prop is now, but I know at least before it
22
was
22
and a half. Yep. I don't know if that's still what it is, but 22 and a half is a number that I also bet earlier in the day and liked even before the Kobe White news. We've got a super chat right now coming in. If you guys have any questions for us at all in the premium Discord channel, message me. We can answer those on the show. We're going to have plenty of time for questions today. At least we should. This does not seem like it's going to be a crazy news day. Ade Balogun, he wants to know, are you guys setting any max rules for Chicago or the Miami Big Three on FanDuel?
I have no rules for it.
Neither do I. It's also not like I'm getting to an insane amount of those teams. Like there's individual players I like, but this isn't like the Sixers situation yesterday where if I would just ran my lineups as is for yesterday's slate, I would have gotten Tobias Harris, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, and Anthony Melton in nearly every single lineup. To me, these aren't even the best value teams on this. Like, to me, the best value team right now is the Nets, considering their injury situation and Ben Simmons out. What team are you getting the most exposure to right now?
Right now, the Nets, but I think that could definitely change. I'm very curious what people are going to do with this Bulls team now. I'm starting to talk myself into some 3,300 Goran Dragic. I'm not sure if that's something that you've had on your radar. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. There's been a couple of games right out of the middle of nowhere, and it's been Kobe White removed, where he's had some closing opportunities against the Spurs, against Washington. It hasn't been every time, but part of that is Kobe White's existence. And I think getting 21 minutes from him, 22 minutes of him, makes a lot of sense to try to find some sort of value down there at 3,300. We know that Javonte Green could be decent enough as well. He's been around the same fantasy point per minute guy this season as Goran Dragic, but historically that's not the case. So I do prefer getting to some Dragic. Think that he makes some sense on this kind of a slate where we're kind of starved for value now without OKC.
For what it's worth, I have Dragic for 17 fantasy points right now. For FanDuel, that's a little thin. For DK, that's playable, honestly.
That's what I'm saying, though. Yep. Yeah, I'm playing primarily. So I played primarily FanDuel, got my ass handed to me the other night. So we're heading to the DK streets today. We're going to have some fun. We're going to kick it. So also just flipping cards in the Rainmaker Street. I'm feeling lucky over there today. So primarily playing on DK. He makes a lot of sense, I think, at 3,300 now.
Yeah, it's not going to be somebody who I'm getting, an insane amount of exposure to. There's other value plays that I like better. We're going to talk about Nets guys in a little bit. But still, I do think that he's sensible as a value option, particularly because of the size of the slate.
But I'm saying, you asked me which team I'm getting to the most, and I have Vooch, I have DeRozan, I have Levine, and then, now that you're adding another piece in there, in Dragic and possibly some Javonte Green, I think that, Alex Cruz at 4,300 is pretty tough to get to on DraftKings. You take a K off of that, and you put it to Goran Dragic, I don't know. That kind of becomes an interesting team to me, whereas I think it's going to be hard for me to get to more than like 2 or 3 pieces of any other team today.
For me, the team I'm getting to the most, like I said before, it's the Nets. It's because if you look at the situation for Brooklyn right now, there's no Ben Simmons. That's been a total disaster. Whatever the worst case scenario, actually, whatever was the worst case scenario with every single piece of the Nets, it's already happened this year. Any joke anybody's made about the Nets, oh, Kyrie's going to do this, Nash is a dumb coach, or this, that, everything has come true. The only thing that hasn't happened yet is Kevin Durant getting hurt. Every other thing that could possibly have gone wrong has gone wrong for this team. But at least for today, there's no Ben Simmons. Seth Curry is out because of rest. We still have Joe Harris playing somewhat limited minutes. It's not like he's going to go out and play 36 or anything like that. So I do think there is some value to be mined from the Nets. That's a team that I'm getting to. And then also just Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They're two really strong pay-up options.
Very much so. Very much so.
Aiden Queskin, favorite value play for DK GPP, and then is Okiki or Dragic viable? So we just talked about Goran Dragic. I think he is viable. I'm going to be getting a little bit of exposure to him. Chuma Okiki, is he in any of my lineups? I have a feeling that's a no.
He's definitely in mine. I feel like I've always been the Chuma Okiki. I don't want to call him a stan, but he's 3,600 with small forward, power forward eligibility on DK. I think there's going to be an increase in minutes for him, and this is kind of what I was waiting for. We saw 29 and 25 now the last two. I'm going to be waiting to see that starting lineup here, but regardless, I think Chuma Okiki is going to be a guy off the bench that is going to actually see an uptick in minutes as it progresses on. They need somebody there in that second unit, and Mo Bamba at 3,500 is also somebody that I've got on my radar, but he's pulling some ownership, whereas Okiki's really not. And for me, that's kind of the main differentiator. He's not the most intriguing fantasy point per minute guy, but you play 28 minutes of just about anybody there that's sub 4K, and I think you're very much in play for this slate. So 3,600, I definitely, I'm north of 18% right now. I'm right there. Let's see. Well, he's at 7% ownership. I have 20% as it is right now.
So I am not. This is the reason why, because I'm looking at the Magic rotation and trying to figure out what happens off the bench. You said they need somebody who's going to score for them and facilitate off the bench, somebody who's going to have the ball in their hands. I think it's just going to be Jalen Suggs now. Now that Jalen Suggs is back and is coming off the bench, I think that's the guy who's going to be the first man off the bench. He's going to lead the second unit in usage. And also, I think that takes some playing time away from Chuma Okeke.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just, again, we're very starved for value. I think the minutes upside is there. He's played pretty decently the last two against Charlotte. I think he got a little extra run. That game did blow out, but then he played well enough there. I think they ended up giving him some extra leash, and 9.2% usage. I don't think he necessarily has to score to be effective, because that rebounding rate when he's on the floor is pretty out of control. And if you have Bull, who gets inserted into the starting lineup again here, alongside Wendell Carter, he's just a guy who can, I mean, he's not going to double for you, but I think he can definitely add other columns in the stat column at 3,600 where he doesn't have to be shooting dependent.
The other part of his question was, overall, who's our favorite value play on DraftKings? So for tournaments, which value play are you getting to the most? So it's hard for me to say one guy. I have, by the way, I reran my lineups. I'm actually getting to a good amount of Dragic, more than I thought I was going to, but there's a group of guys, I'll say 3, that I'm getting to at a pretty good clip right now as value plays on DraftKings. One of them, the aforementioned Goran Dragic. The other 2, Yuta Watanabe, and then Jalen Williams for our OKC.
Yep. Jalen Williams was the shout out. I would say he's the most secure piece of, and again, it's relative, because value is not really a thing on this slate the way that it is on a 10 or an 11 gamers. So get that out of your head. If you look at the projections of Stokastic and you update, you're going to see very, very quickly that, like, oh, he doesn't just project out very well. But I got to say, I still feel pretty good that Jalen Williams is going to play a lot of minutes. And as I said, anybody under 4K that's going to play over 24, 25 minutes has to be considered. Even a guy like Dragic, who I think has upside to maybe get there if he plays well. I've got him right now, again, 21 minutes, and I think there's an uptick where that range of outcomes could be larger. But Jalen Williams, I think, is pretty locked into being a backup and being somebody that, regardless of Giddey returning, is going to see bench minutes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm on the same page with you there. Even with, and something else too, there's potential for Giddey to play not exactly his full allotment of minutes, and I think that's probably most likely here. Not that I think he plays 22 or anything like that, but I think if he gets a few minutes shaved off him, it's potentially see bigger lineups from OKC. That could lead to more Jalen Williams minutes. The other thing too is, when we talk about this team, their goal is not to win this year. If they happen to win because their players are good, so be it. And maybe towards the end of the year, we see them what they did last year. And it's like, hey, last 2 months of the year, no SGA, no Josh Giddey, best ball teams all fucked. But I do think, at least for now, Giddey coming off the injury report, there's a chance he plays a couple less minutes. And the point I was making before about their goal not necessarily being to win, Jalen Williams is a high draft pick this year. I think they want to get him reps, see what they have there in him. So I think that we're going to start seeing him getting worked in, and he's a value play I like quite a bit. For you, do you have one value play above all the others?
Yeah, right now it just because of current ownership, we'll get it updated. But if it's the slate started this second with Goran Dragic sitting there at 8.5%, I would have the most of him.
Totally makes sense to me. So Dragic, by the way, just for reference, the guys we just talked about, I'll read off their DraftKings and FanDuel ownership. So on DK, Goran Dragic, 3,300, projected for 8.5% ownership. Jalen Williams at 3,900, projected for 17% ownership. And then Yuta Watanabe right now with $3,100, projected for 14% ownership. That's pretty modest ownership on all those guys. And I think all of them have potential to see extended run, considering the situations with the injuries on those teams. Over on FanDuel for those players, Watanabe at 3,700, projected for 7% ownership. Jalen Williams is projected for, it would help if I spelled his name right.
Jalen. There you go.
And Jalen Williams, 4,200, projected for 10% ownership. And then Dragic over on FanDuel right now is projected for 5% ownership at 3,800. I think all those guys are going under-owned.
Agreed. I think, I mean, this is really, really hard because we've had a lot of different things that have been moving. I feel like Jalen Williams was going to be very, very popular. We'll see if that maintains. That Josh Giddey news came out very, very early. And if people are going to hit eject on him, that would make me like him maybe more relative to ownership than what I did before. We'll see what happens when we get closer to lock here with Dragic, with him, because everybody's volatile. If Dragic ends up like 25% owned out of the middle of nowhere or something ridiculous like that, I can definitely find paths to do other things. I'll still have shares because he's still got to be factored and considered. But I think relative to what that new ownership would be. I think there's enough volatile spots, whether it's, a Kevon Looney who's 4,100, Yuta Watanabe, who I think is going to be popular regardless. I mean, we have him now to 13.9%. Maybe more people are hitting eject. Everybody's volatile, so I'll just take the guys who are coming in under-owned in the boom bust tool.
The next super chat here is from Steve McGee. He wants to know, Eric, so specifically for you, he's not asking me, he only wants to know from you. Need your number one guy, unlimited funds, DK, quack, quack. So
unlimited funds, number one play, period.
I guess who you have, let's do this two ways. Number one, who do we have projected for the most fantasy points each? And then I guess we could do who we have the most exposure to right now. Right? I think that's a reasonable way to answer this.
Yeah, Durant is, any other answer other than Durant is probably not correct. So there's that. My favorite play on the slate is Nikola Vucevic. So there you go.
I also have the most exposure to Vooch of any player. The team I have the most exposure
Look at us.
Yep. The team I have the most exposure to overall right now is the Nets. Player I have the most exposure to is Vooch.
We didn't talk about this before the show either, which is kind of nice.
No, there was no time. We only get those few minutes to look at each other naked in between shows when there's the crossover. We catch up with Josh and Adam. It's quick. It's only 3 minutes, but we make do with the time we have.
Yeah, we totally do not talk about anybody in chat who's an idiot. We've never done that before.
Never. DC24. Is it okay to play Kyrie and KD together on DK?
Yes.
Yeah,
why wouldn't it be?
It's not something I would typically love to do, but on a 4-game slate, it's fine. The actual biggest issue for me in terms of playing them together is not the negative correlation. It's the lack of value today. But individually as plays, it's fine.
Yep, that's exactly it. I mean, we saw yesterday they both went pretty nuts together, and people, I think they tend to not look at, like if you're hand building, obviously you're probably not going to land on the combination of Kyrie and Kevin Durant, but that's all the more reason that if an optimizer gives it to you in a couple shares, you should probably just stick with it, and gives you a little bit of a different look that other people aren't necessarily going for. I'm with you where I don't think the value is good enough that we should be necessarily considering doing that or going out of our way to do it. But yeah, if it happens, it happens. It's fine.
Yeah, and something else to consider also, they're underpriced right now on both FanDuel and DraftKings because Ben Simmons is out. And something we talked about yesterday, I know that Ben Simmons isn't scoring a lot, so there isn't some kind of usage bump that goes to Kevin Durant or to Kyrie Irving. But Ben Simmons had the ball in his hands a ton this year. He is leading the Nets in potential assists. He is their point guard. He's the number one playmaker as far as distributing the ball to other players. Kevin Durant had a season-high 7 assists last night. And then something else to consider, too, Durant had the best passing season of his career last year as far as assists are concerned. That had tanked so far to open up the year, and that's because the ball had been in Ben Simmons' hands. For today, though, we just saw Kevin Durant with 7 assists last night. He's going to take on that same kind of role. Kyrie Irving also sees a playmaking bump, so there's extra assist opportunities. Both of them are underpriced in the absence of Simmons.
Yep, I'm with you.
We have another super chat here somewhere. I know I saw it. Oh, here we go. Kyle Y3. Any Caleb Martin for FanDuel?
Caleb Martin's a hard guy to get a hold of exactly what's going on because, I mean, for me, it has more to do with he's in the starting unit. He's serviceable. He had that one smash, and aside from the smash, what was it against? Why is his box score not coming up? Portland, there you go. 40.1 DraftKings points. There you go. I think he's high pointed, been around 25. I don't think he's like the upside option of the universe, and he's very popular for FanDuel purposes today. I'm having a very tough time figuring out what I want to do with him. I just added some lineups on FanDuel, by the way, because I just kind of decided, why wouldn't I get a little extra exposure here? But Caleb Martin, 4,500, shooting guard, small forward. He's very, very popular. He's playing those minutes that are secure. He feels like he's going to be very popular, and I might try to make some value cases for guys that aren't him, just because that ceiling has just really not been there outside of the one game that obviously you could point to and say, oh, he has upside. Everybody has upside, but I want to get to the guys that are just completely unowned, considering Caleb Martin, not the highest usage guy in that starting rotation.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to Caleb Martin, if you're talking about, because he didn't specify whether it's just cash or GPP, for cash games, yeah, go ahead and play Caleb Martin. I think he's a good source of value. For tournament purposes, I'm not going to say there isn't upside in him. It's too much ownership for me, though. I don't want to roster Caleb Martin at 31% ownership in a really difficult matchup against the Golden State Warriors. I know their defense has only been mediocre so far this year, and they've had some bad results against bad teams lately. But the Warriors were number one in defensive efficiency last year. They returned basically the exact same team. They're going to be one of the best defenses in the league this year. And I don't think this is the best spot to get to Caleb Martin when he's going to be 31% owned in large field tournaments.
Agreed. That's what it comes down to. It's just an ownership thing. It's too much. And the way that you can really kind of double check and know that I'm not just saying stuff, you can go to the boom bust tool, and on FanDuel right now, things are getting updated, but it's a slight negative correlation. I just think there's a lot of positive leverage to try out guys in this sub 6K range. I mean, you have Draymond Green, Jalen Suggs, who we do not know if he's starting or not here. It's announced. I didn't see that.
Yeah. It is.
Like, these are all negative leverage guys, but then you have like Bol, Chuma Okeke, I've already talked about. He's got quite a bit of positive leverage for FanDuel purposes. You could even try like a 4K Kyle Anderson. That's something that could be in play for that late night hammer. He's been out quite a bit. He's had some back issues. Maybe he's right here, and maybe he gets a couple extra minutes. Obviously, Phoenix is going to be very wing heavy in terms of like a Kyle Bridges and Cameron Johnson being on the floor quite a bit. Kyle Anderson, that was his role in Memphis. That's going to be his role with this Timberwolves team. I know that they've been pushing McDaniels. He's played a lot more minutes, and he's played pretty well for Minnesota so far this season. But I do expect Kyle Anderson. They brought him in to play that 20, 22 minutes off the bench. I think at 4K, he makes some sense. So lots of guys that are even cheaper, I would say, than a very volatile Caleb Martin that I have some interest in.
Yeah, the starting lineup for the Orlando Magic, by the way, the only team that we actually officially have the starting lineup for, Franz Wagner,
I missed it.
Yeah, Franz Wagner, Terrence Ross, Boncaro, Bol, and Wendell Carter Jr.
Okay, cool. Bol in that. Just wanted to double check because I thought there was a chance Suggs could end up sneaking in there, and then you had to figure that out. But when did that news drop? I didn't see it. Long time ago.
Yeah, a little while ago. I don't remember the exact time, but
I'll fix my Magic stuff quick. That's fine.
What did you assume Suggs was starting instead of Bol?
No, I just kind of left it. I kept 3 pieces kind of open there. Bol and then Mo Bamba, because I think he's kind of affected by the news too. I like that Bol starting there. I think Mo Bamba 3,500 on DraftKings is a good value play now.
Bamba, you said?
Yeah, Mo Bamba. I assume he's going to play the backup center minutes. He played 17 minutes the last 2, and he's just somebody who can be a fantasy point per minute guy. We've seen that in years past. So if he's going to be on the second unit, if they're going to take Wendell and him off the floor, or Wendell and Bol off the floor, Mo Bamba 17 minutes. If he plays well enough, I think there's actual upside there. He got, I thought it was because of blowout primarily, because he ended up closing that game for Charlotte, but then he played 17 minutes the next day against Dallas, and I think that that's good enough on a slate like this to try to make it a thing.
Yeah, no, I don't have an issue with that. I think that's all sound logic. Red Skittles, friendly reminder that Greg is Eric's boss. Eric, comment.
I mean, awesome. Great.
There we go.
He's so nice to me. I believe he said on Twitter earlier that he is going to make fun of me more, and I cannot wait for that opportunity to show how good I am at taking a joke. Aha.
That was yesterday, Eric.
Oh, sorry.
It was yesterday.
I've been too busy in the lab, boss. Been too busy working.
Now you
grinded at the old grindstone.
I see why it's so difficult.
Emphasis on the grind, on the grindstone. Yeah.
Doesn't remember what all my tweets are.
I don't.
John
I apologize.
Good.
Strike against me.
Yes, absolutely. You're on thin ice. John Good. Would you guys have either of the Suns' bigs in a cash lineup? No.
Who? Jalen Suggs?
No, either of the Suns' bigs.
Suns' bigs. No.
Or Jock Landale.
No. Inflated tags. No. I do. This is kind of an interesting one. Who do you like more between Landale and Biyombo?
Neither. I know it's.
You have to pick one.
I don't. I'm not really playing either of them. If I had to pick one, it's Biyombo because he's starting.
Correct.
But both of them are not great plays. They've gotten to be way more expensive over on DK. The FanDuel price tags on them, 5,000 for Biyombo, and then Landale is priced at, and by the way, Biyombo's also picking up some ownership at 5K. Landale is 4,800, also projected for 10% ownership, and it's also hard on FanDuel. They're center only eligible. It's hard for me to get there. I know that Landale crushed off the bench the other day, but the price tags have gone up, and I do think the plan is for it to be somewhat of a timeshare. Maybe people are projecting it to be too close. I see a lot of spots where it's like 24 minutes. Maybe it goes a little bit more towards Biyombo if he's able to avoid foul trouble, but I don't really see a mass amount of upside in either.
Okay. I mean, I'm not as harsh on it. I think Biyombo is the better play. I don't want to play him at 5,500 on DraftKings. I think that's pretty safe to say, but we've seen last season. I don't even know what to tell you. I'm just happy that DraftKings is getting aggressive in these kind of spots, at least. Cause like if we had like the 3K or 4,500 even kind of spot where we had to pick one of these guys, like anything in that range, it would be a really shitty slate. So the fact that they're priced up over there, and then I do think on FanDuel, you have Biyombo who's 5K. I think he's in play over there more so. Landale's 4,800, but Landale's role does not change and the price went up. So I'm probably okay with not doing that.
Super chat from Goody. Thank you, Goody. By the way, if you guys haven't done it yet, do us a favor, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. DK single entry must plays. Thanks, guys.
I want to revisit one thing before we do that. Okay. I apologize. Do you think there's an opportunity where Landale could, because I'm just thinking this out loud as I'm kind of like double checking myself. Do you think Landale could close if he's playing better though?
No.
You don't think there's any way?
It would require Biyombo to be in foul trouble. I think more likely than Landale closing is neither of them close.
I think I kind of agree with that. I think it could be one of those spots where Torrey Craig closes.
That's what they did the other day.
Yeah, I'm saying 3,800 Torrey Craig is somebody that maybe we should at least look at. FanDuel. I'm looking at FanDuel still. On DK, he's
also questionable.
I know, but Torrey Craig's questionable. He has no tag next to him. Oh, he is questionable. You're right. That's kind of wild. 37. Yeah, we don't have to do that. I just wanted to think about it out loud because I was kind of double checking myself where, why do I like Biyombo more than Landale if there's an opportunity for Landale to possibly close?
The biggest issue with Torrey Craig, well, there's two issues. Number one, I don't think he's going to play a ton of minutes, even if he closes. And number two, even if he does, he played 21 minutes per game last year and averaged 15 fantasy points. So you have to give him 28 minutes just to get him over 20 fantasy points. And then even at that point, it's kind of a thin play. Yeah, but I think what he could do if he plays is just potentially cuts into any extended minutes that Landale or Biyombo would maybe play down the stretch. So overall, it's a situation I'm kind of avoiding.
Amazing. Also, yes, Boogie Nights, one of the greatest films of all time. And if Neil Orfield has not seen it, you must do that tonight, or I just won't talk to you again. That's fine. I'm a star. I'm a mother effing star.
Getting back to the super chat from Goody, who are the must plays for DK single entry? So it's hard to say anybody is a must play, but the players that I'm getting the most exposure to, I would say Kevin Durant and Vooch. Beyond that, a must play. I guess I give them a value option. Based on just the ownership right now, let me see if it's changed. I'll say Dragic as a guy to really make your single entry lineup different, but let me see if the ownership is updated at this point. Or if anything's changed in terms of Dragic being, he's still only projected for 8% ownership. I'm gonna say Dragic is a way to differentiate your single entry lineup because everything else could be popular. You could play Durant, you could play Vooch, you could play all the chalk on the slate. And if you have Dragic in that lineup, it looks like it's going to be pretty contrarian. And something else kind of interesting is if you look at the DK ownership per day, even on a 4-game slate, this is very rare. There's not a single player projected for north of 30% ownership. It's pretty flat today. And some of the value options I like are pretty low owned.
It's a great slate. This is probably my favorite 4-game slate we've had all season, or like less than 5 or 6 games. Like this is a really, really good slate. You can pretty much play anybody that you want. And there isn't like a huge problem that I have with anybody that's gaining any type of ownership. I get why certain guys are getting ownership now, like a Royce O'Neal on DraftKings or a Caleb Martin on FanDuel. Those are plays that I'm lower on, but like I can make a case for it if you're going to play really low owned options around them. And, you know, they happen to go off at high ownership, but that's the kind of slates I like where you can actually fade some of the volatile chalk and find some different paths rather than just like, oh, well, everybody's out for this team, jam 4 players from that, and then figure out your other 4 spots.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page there. And then also, like I said, nobody really all that popular right now on DraftKings, relatively. 28% on Royce O'Neal, most popular player on DK. On FanDuel, the single most popular player is Chris Paul at 41% ownership. Do we have any other super chats? Yes. Brandon Kent, DK, GPP, Nick Claxton and Kyrie Irving, or Vooch and Edwards?
Nick Claxton and who?
Claxton and Irving,
okay,
or Vooch and Edwards.
I'm taking the Vooch side every time.
Yeah, Vooch for me as well. I like Kyrie today. I like Vooch more as a pay up option. And then we're talking about Edwards versus Claxton. I prefer Edwards there as well. I'm not getting a whole bunch of exposure to Edwards, but I just like the Vooch side enough to where I think that's the answer.
Agreed.
All right, we are all caught up there. So, Eric, let's take this time to talk about BetMGM, because if you guys haven't signed up there yet, you're missing out, because it's $200 for free, and this opportunity is only going to be around for a little bit longer. So all you need to do is click on the link below in the description box to set up a new account at BetMGM. You place a $10 bet on any NBA money line, and it pays out $200 as soon as the three-pointers hit in the game. It's not going to lose. It's a no-brainer bet. The only thing here is you got to make sure to click the link when you sign up. You got to bet an NBA money line. And then also, it's only going to be around for a few more days. And we don't know the exact time frame for when it's going to end, but we do know it's relatively shortly. So take advantage of the offer before it goes away. Aiden Queskin, leaving us a super chat. Game stacking Chicago and Brooklyn. Not intentionally, but I am. It's just because it's a spot where I like the most players.
That's the right way to put it. It's not like an intentional game stack, but like there's going to be paths where I have Vooch, Levine, and then Kevin Durant and Goran Dragic and Nick Claxton. I'm going to just get a random smattering of that game, and they're just going to happen to end up in the same lineup. So not intentional.
I'm going to start uploading my lineups. Now,
how much Bam did you get to?
What's that?
Your boy Bam.
Let me see.
I hate myself because I just know I have way too much Bam right now. I don't want it.
All right. So we'll make a game out of this. Give me I'm not going to spoil it. How much exposure do you have to Bam? And then I'll tell you whether I'm above or below.
34%.
All right. I'm a little bit above you, but we're pretty close.
Okay. God, I'm glad we're really on the same page today. A lot more than we normally are. So, I mean, I would say that there inherently becomes some groupthink where we do enough shows together. And as we get it going, we're going to kind of know where the other person goes. But I'd say early on in the season, we've kind of had a couple of players we've been split on. We're kind of playing this slate the same way.
Is there anything you think that you might have in your lineups that's way different from mine? If you just look through your exposures, there's somebody.
I have zero Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Let's see. SGA. I'm not getting much SGA either. I mean, we've got Josh Giddey back now, and he's still priced as if Giddey's
I have 0% Shai, and he's pulling 17.5% ownership. I would rather go to Kyrie, absent one of the big three, or if you want to call Ben Simmons, the big 2.5 there. Steph Curry, 9,600, I think has crazy upside, obviously, every time he hits the floor. I'd rather pay the 200 more to get to his ceiling at reduced ownership. I just think Shai is like inherently a bad play now.
Yeah, totally. Because he's mispriced. He's too expensive. And the field is still playing him. He's been insane this year.
I love him. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA. I have 0% of him today.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. There's other guys I prefer to pay up for.
I will say that's on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's 10-8. I think already people are going to hit eject on it. And maybe it gets so low that if you're talking like a 3% Shai, right now we have him at 11.7. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pull at the moment. But if that thing were to start creeping down to around like 3% around lock, I would definitely want to have 10% of that.
We have a question in our Discord channel from JEW. Is DeRozan being forgotten on this DK slate, or is he just bad? So is DeRozan being forgotten?
The issue is that he's over. I mean, it's weird to say overpriced because he's not overpriced. But when you have Levine active and he's not doing this injury management thing, it becomes an issue where you're inserting a guy who has a 28% usage for 30 plus minutes. And that's just inherently going to hinder a guy who is shot reliant, who's scoring reliant in terms of his fantasy production. DeMar DeRozan, 4.5 assists. I mean, he's averaging more assists than LaVine. I think that he's better at creating than LaVine is. And then 3.5 boards. You have Vooch. He's going to just clean up the glass for Brooklyn. Now, could he spike something that we don't really see there? Sure, but with Zach LaVine back in, that's just such a difficult ask for DeMar DeRozan to smash 8,200, as opposed to without Zach LaVine. I think he would be 40% owned and one of the best plays on the slate.
We're probably going to play DeRozan tomorrow. We don't know the pricing; it's well ahead of time. But tomorrow, LaVine isn't.
Ask us tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow. Yeah, ask tomorrow. Then we'll probably be playing him. But it's another guy where the price tag, he's $8,200 on FanDuel. That to me is a pretty reasonable price tag to play him at. $8,500 on DK. The opportunity cost I can't pay up for other guys. I don't know whether JW is asking about FanDuel or DraftKings. Assuming it's DraftKings, I don't really like getting to DeRozan there. FanDuel's a totally different story where he's cheaper and the pricing is just softer in general.
Agreed.
A couple more super chats came in. This one first from our guy Sotax, who I've been engaging with for forever now. Back to my basketball monster days. Love Sotax. Keep up the great work, guys. And then he got emojis of both of us. Sotax, just a good, wholesome human being, not like the majority of us or other people that are on the YouTube channel.
True.
Appreciate you, Sotax.
True.
Super chat from Anthony. Pick 2. Bam, Vooch, Boncaro, or Biyombo for DK Cash. I don't know how Biyombo, but one of these is not like the other. Vooch and Boncaro.
Vooch and Boncaro. Again, I have I had 34%. It's now down to 31% Bam Adebayo. I'm just keep refreshing and keep trying to figure this out. I want to get a little bit less, but the two guys I'm absolutely not fading. Boncaro, no way to get away from playing him. No way to get away from playing Vooch.
Next super chat is from Ryan Langley. Gents, thank you for the great content. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. Greg, do you still like Biyombo over 7.5 rebounds? So this morning, I actually did bet Biyombo over 7.5 rebounds at plus 115. So let me see if that's moved. Let me head on over to Odd Shopper. By the way, also the slate locks in 17 minutes, but as per usual, Eric and I are going to be sticking around for 30 minutes. We'll be sweating the games. We'll be talking about bets and all of that in the post 30-minute lock show. Let me see what Biyombo's rebound prop is. So I don't think Biyombo is going to go out and play 30 minutes or anything like that. I don't think that's the most likely outcome. I think he probably plays 26 to 28 minutes as long as he avoids foul trouble. But as is, he's averaging 5 rebounds per game in 13 minutes. So I don't think it's that hard to expect him to be north of 7.5 rebounds, particularly when that was a plus money bet. And yeah, it's still up there. Right now, you can get Biyombo over 7.5 rebounds plus 110. That's a number that's available over at BetMGM, which is convenient because they're also the sponsor today. So yeah, over 7.5 at plus 110. I think that is sensible. Eric, What do you think about that?
Agreed.
Also, Kyrie over 2.5 threes with his attempt volume lately. If 2.5 threes is a number somewhere, that seems very
for who? LaVine?
For Kyrie.
Oh, for Kyrie. I'll pull it up here.
I have Kyrie projected for about 3.5 3-pointers. In the last 3 games, he's had 5, 5, and 4 threes to the point where Ryan made he is shooting a lot right now. And that's going to be the case. The ball is in Kyrie's hands more with Ben Simmons being out. If the ball's in Kyrie's hands, good chance are he's going to be shooting it. So considering the amount he's shooting, yeah, 2.5 seems like a very low prop.
Agreed.
Shane Daly. Is it weird that Butler is not a thing?
Not really. He's fine. He's 8,600 on FanDuel. He's a thing on FanDuel. So don't get it twisted there. On DraftKings, let me pull this up here as I'm coming across.
He's 8,400 on DraftKings, projected for 17% ownership. Over on FanDuel, 8,600. He's projected for 27% ownership. It depends what we consider a thing is, but he's reasonably priced in picking up ownership. Like I'm right around the field on him.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like we're not paying attention to him or not aware that he's there. He's efficient. Like that's an efficient ownership for him.
Yeah, I don't think he warrants being one of the most popular players on the slate. And one thing that does hurt Butler a little bit this year, Tyler Hero starting. Tyler Hero's a really high usage player. Jimmy Butler's usage this year, off the top of my head, I think it was 26.5% last year. It's 23% this year. That's just going to be the case with Tyler Hero getting more minutes. So I do think we see a little bit of a dip in scoring output and overall fantasy production from Jimmy Butler, but the price is also adjusted for that at this point. He's considerably cheaper than he was last year.
Well, but also what he also has this year is power forward eligibility. That's kind of the main reason I don't get to a lot of him. Paolo Banchero, 7,900. I prefer him for less. I think Cameron Johnson's a decent enough play, 5,400 on FanDuel. Once again, Jimmy Butler over there gets the small forward eligibility to go with the power forward eligibility. So I think there's more maneuverability, but you're also seeing that ownership come up to 26.5%, despite being almost identically priced, 8,600, about comparable DraftKings to FanDuel. You get the $500 difference between the floors. That's just the more lineup space for him to fall into. That's why you get into FanDuel. But considering he's only power forward now on DK, I get why he's 17.5 because Banchero is just a better play.
Are you like me? Do you get to a point where it's 15, 20 minutes before lock and there's a million tabs open on your screen?
I have a lot of them. Yeah. I mean, I thought I was going to, it gets to be pretty crazy.
Especially once I have Excel open and I'm just overwriting lineups and copying in, and then I just have all the pages sit up because I don't end up closing them.
Yep. Pretty much.
We have a question in Discord from Jets World. This is going to require a little bit of math on our part. I have 10,100 left in DK cash. Should I play Bol and Caruso or Patrick Williams and Poole?
I don't think you should not play Bol. Neither of those you shouldn't have to make that kind of a 2v2. You should, all four of them should not be in a cash lineup.
You have 13 minutes to rebuild your lineup, Jets World.
Yep. Ready, break.
Yeah. I hate when we have to give answers like that, but realistically, that is the correct response. You can't be playing Alex Caruso, Patrick Williams, and those kinds of guys in cash.
We're doing this because we love you and we want you to make money. It's not saying that, oh my God, I can't believe you're considering these guys. That's a perfectly fine 2v2 in a tournament, in a large field tournament, in a single entry, if you wanted to try to make those a thing. But in cash, those aren't even on the same stratosphere of a play you should actually be making.
And we just got some super chats that have come in. The one here is from Gray. Late to the party, what are y'all's two most exposed players on DK? So this is good timing. I just finished uploading my lineups, and I can now answer for you what my actual players are. The ones that I got the two most ownership to overall my lineups, Vooch and Royce O'Neal ended up being the second player I got to the most.
You got to a lot of Royce. I'm a little bit lower on Royce. So we found the first thing that we might not be completely there. I totally get he is going to play a shit ton of minutes, and there's going to be opportunity, and he's probably going to play the most minutes out of any other value piece. But we've seen this movie before in Utah, and he's just such a low fantasy point per minute guy that it creates an opportunity for somebody to kind of surprise us. I also think coming off of a back-to-back that I don't anticipate Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving being limited in any way, but I could see somebody like Royce O'Neal who played a lot of minutes and always plays a lot of minutes because he has to be out there for defensive purposes. I could see him being limited a little bit, not crazy, but I could see other bench players becoming interesting there. That's where the likes of like an Okiki, the likes of a Mo Bamba, some of these other pieces from other teams that are just really, really low owned, as opposed to like a 30% owned Royce O'Neal makes some sense.
So I'm going to ask you a question here. Last back-to-back the Nets played, how many minutes do you think Royce O'Neal played?
I know he played like 39, I think is what it was. But
41.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to project him for not a ton of minutes. Here's his minutes per game this year. 39, 36, 37, 41, 38, 37. He just plays a shit ton, and that comes with a high floor. He's scored less than 21 fantasy points once the entire year. I have a lot of other contrarian value guys that I'm playing, so I'm fine with the chalk on Royce O'Neal. That's
fine. I'm trying to find other places. Like, again, you can scattershot the entire board. Like, Joe Harris, even. We haven't talked about him. 4K. Watanabe, I don't feel that good about. I'm probably, I don't know. I'm pretty low on him as well. I just think I'm trying to take shots elsewhere. I think Jalen Williams really jumps the board for me because he's pulling far less ownership than somebody like Royce O'Neal. So I don't know. I'm trying to make cases to get away from it, but I totally understand why he's there. I just think he's a piece of chalk that could sink a third of lineups, and that's always intriguing to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to sink lineups, but he also might not win tournaments.
Right.
Like, I don't think I don't think it's within the range of outcomes that Royce O'Neal played, barring injury or foul trouble. He plays so many minutes. It's hard for me to see him going out and scoring like 10 fantasy points.
I get it.
If he scores 20, 22, yeah, I could see that happening. He might not win lineup. He might not win the slate for individual lineups, but I don't think he's sinking any lineups either.
Yeah, I get it.
The next super chat. Who are your two most exposed players on DK?
On DK, let me pull that up. I was finishing up FanDuel because I decided to add that. Vooch and Banchero.
Big Mike, NY21. Is Dragic a cash play or lineup poison? I love Dragic in tournaments. Cash, a little too risky, I think, though.
100%.
Unless, let me just refresh ownership to make sure he hasn't become really popular. I assume that is not the case. If he was to all of a sudden be, a chalky player on the slate, then I think we could get behind him. We just got an ownership update, by the way. 21
Beautiful,
seconds.
thank you. Thank you.
Dragic has gone up to 9.9% ownership on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Dragic is 6.5% owned right now at $3,800. If you guys want access to stuff like our player projections or ownership projections, do have a 3-day free trial right now. Easy way to get in the door and just see if you guys, maybe there's a slate you're planning on playing a little bit heavier. 3 days for free if you haven't signed up yet. Good way to get access to it and see some of the stuff that we typically have behind that paywall. So Big Mike, I would say Dragic. Tournament play, not somebody I'd play in cash games. Corey Bomber, already have O'Neal and KD. Would you go Kyrie or Curry?
Again, it doesn't matter to me. With maybe slight negative correlation, Durant, Irving, both guys who shoot the ball a lot. I would probably just play Kyrie. I mean, they're $100 apart. I don't know. I like Curry for tournaments. Again, I just think he's going to get a little bit slept on, forgotten. So I don't know. I've never been the biggest play Curry in tournaments guy. I'm usually the one who gets torched on the days he goes nuts, but I'm kind of cheering for it today.
I have Kyrie projected for 4.5 more fantasy points. With that in mind, it's hard for me to say Steph over Kyrie. The other thing too is it's not like Steph is crazy contrarian. He's projected for double-digit ownership over on FanDuel. So I forget. Did he say what was specific to DraftKings or FanDuel? He didn't. I'll just answer for both. So on FanDuel, Kyrie is way more popular. He's picking up about 3.5x the ownership. Over on DraftKings, though, Kyrie is 21% owned, whereas Steph is 13%. It's not that much of a gap there. FanDuel, the gap is more significant, where Kyrie is 3.5x the ownership. Less than 2x the ownership on DraftKings. I'd just rather say play Kyrie. If it's a FanDuel question, then Steph. Is that fair?
It's fair.
Shane Daly. Oh, this is a follow-up to the Jimmy Butler, because he's only power forward on DK. That hurts. Yeah, his position eligibility this year isn't the same as what it was last year.
We go.
Next super chat is from Travis Hill. Travis wants to know top 3 plays on DK.
Vooch, Banchero, Durant.
Are you playing a lot of Banchero today?
Yeah. 48%.
So are your lineups uploaded now?
Yep, they're up.
All right, so
let's
do
FanDuel, but I should be able to do it.
Okay, so he asked us who our favorite plays are for let's just do our most rostered player at each position on DraftKings. I think that's an easy way to route it off. For me, at point guard, it's Dragic. Who is it for you at point guard on DK?
Dragic, Curry. So I'm going opposite you still on that. And Devin Booker.
For me, at shooting guard, it is Royce O'Neal.
It is Jalen Williams and Joe Harris and Devin Booker.
Small forward, Jalen Williams and Kevin Durant. I have them pretty close there.
Kevin Durant, Jalen Williams, Royce O'Neal now. He's up to 24% for me. So I'm barely undercutting the field at our current ownership, but I could see him being more popular, just throwing it out there.
Power forward is Banchero for me.
Banchero by a mile.
Center, Vooch. And
Vooch by a mile.
Yeah, Bam Adebayo, the more contrarian play for me, but Vooch to me is the top overall center.
Yep, Bam second for me. Mo Bamba coming in third, which is just wild, but welcome to tournaments, y'all.
Super chat from JR. Royce or Cam and Caruso or Dosunmu, more fantasy points, FanDuel cash. So I would say for cash purposes, Royce over Cam Johnson. Would you agree with that?
Agreed, 100%.
And then...
But you should play them both probably in cash, just for what it's worth. I think they're both like almost required FanDuel cash plays. You're going to play.
Yeah, totally agree with that. For cash, they're two of the most popular value plays on the slate. Play both of them in cash.
Yeah, you're playing Cam Johnson, Durant, Royce O'Neal. They're all small forward, power forward, and then fill in the fourth with whoever you want.
All right, here's who you're playing on. Here's who you're playing on FanDuel. I'm not going to tell you all the guys. You're playing Chris Paul. You're playing Cam Johnson. You're playing Kyrie Irving. You're playing Wendell Carter Jr. You're playing Kevin Durant. You're playing Royce O'Neal. Enjoy.
Oh my God, you just gave him a lineup.
Not exactly. I left a couple spots open. There's just guys that I think you kind of have to play in cash today.
Yeah, you're playing them in cash.
As for Caruso or Dosunmu, I would say don't play either of them in cash. But I have also Caruso is 5,000 on FanDuel. Yeah.
Oh, dude, there's some wild things happening on FanDuel as I'm updating. Like, I don't know, Josh Giddey showing up in lineups for me. I don't want this.
I don't have an issue with playing Josh Giddey in tournaments.
Oh, baby. I have a hefty amount of Josh Giddey in tournaments. 22% feels like a ton of Josh Giddey.
I mean, it's clearly not a cash play, but for tournament purposes, on the chance that he isn't going to be restricted, he's $7,300 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I've got him. I've got him over there. I just put 50 lineups in quick because I thought it would be fun to do while I was on a show. Because why wouldn't it be, Greg?
Yeah. By the way, follow up to JR. You can't play Caruso or Dosunmu in FanDuel cash. Dosunmu is 5,600. Caruso's 5,000.
Like anything other than that.
Not quite anything, but most things.
Almost anything other than that.
We are all caught up on questions and super chats. One more time, guys. If you haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Even though the slate locks in a couple minutes, Eric and I not going anywhere. We're going to be sticking around for 30 minutes. It doesn't look like there's any kind of crazy injury news we're waiting for, but a couple players that are listed as questionable. Kyle Anderson, Torrey Craig, Jordan McLaughlin. One thing that is maybe a little bit important here, at least for opening up really, really big field tournament value. If Kyle Anderson and Jordan McLaughlin are both ruled out, there might be some Minnesota guys to take a punt on. That's something. These are the little edges on 4-game slates because by and large part, nobody's going to give a shit if Kyle Anderson and Jordan McLaughlin are ruled out. We'll talk about that post lock. I think that could be a situation.
The first Noel.
It's
the holidays. Jalen Noel.
Oh, how expensive is he now?
It's $5,000.
Oh yeah, no thanks. That's not gonna be the guy for me. It could be somebody else, maybe.
I thought it was just funny to say it because that's the first guy I think of. My team is in shambles on the bench. It's not good. 4,800 for him on FanDuel. No, thank you.
Is there anything else that you think could change or that we're looking for post lock?
I mean, I hope so. That'd be fun to be talking about for us. Keeps it interesting, but not going to be something crazy. I mean, yeah, the Sarah McLachlan Arms of an Angel. We're waiting for him. That's about it.
Are your lineups uploaded?
Yeah, they are, but I'm just tweaking because I'm always tweaking.
Is there anything in your lineups outside of Josh Giddey you got to that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
I got to more Cameron Johnson than I really wanted. Taking Ayton off the floor, I do think maybe there's a little bit more scoring to go, like slightly, but they're already playing big enough minutes. You have no Jay Crowder. They've shipped him off to Middle Earth. So I think he's just all right, but it's more of like, I can see how the start of these two games go, and I can get onto some Orlando KC stuff if I really, 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 really want to.
Does the Jay Crowder situation surprise you?
Little bit, because I think he's a really good piece. We saw him in the bubble basically just ball out and be a god. I would say it surprises me. I think it would be a really good piece to have on any basketball team. It's just a matter of like what he values himself at, and then what the team now views him at currently. There's a lot of weird things that are going on with that. I would assume he's a really good teammate based off of what we've seen in Cleveland. LeBron loved playing with him. What we saw, he's played everywhere. He's played absolutely everywhere at this point in time. And I've never heard a bad thing about him. So I would assume that this is just a money deal.
Well, no, he wants to start.
That's what I'm saying. Well, he wants to start, but it's also like he wants to start so he can continue making crazy contracts rather than play 22 minutes a game for his son's team that Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson confirm better than you now.
That's to me the hang up with Jay Crowder is unless he just wants to go to a shitty team where he's going to get usage and potentially put up better stats. And it's not like he would be playing that much. So I'm looking at his stats now. He started every game he played last year. He played 28 minutes per game. It's not like that's a crazy workload. He comes off the bench. What would he play 25 minutes for the Suns this year? It wouldn't be that significantly different, and he'd be on a good team.
I mean, going back, so he started in Dallas. He had 2 amazing defensive years in Dallas, his rookie year and second year. Kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. Boston, I mean, they were still building up a team. And so I don't know if that's all attributed to him, but I mean, he has been outrageously good on the defensive end. My biggest issue with him is that in terms of true shooting, he started to fall down started to fall by the wayside, gone from 58% true shooting in 2021 down to 55%. And he's never been somebody who could create. He definitely needs somebody creating for him for corner threes. Never been somebody who really finished at the rim. And so if he's going to be a 33% shooter as opposed to the 39% or 35% even that we saw the last 2 seasons, how are you not playing Cameron Johnson, noted 3-point shooter, really good defender, and Mikal Bridges, one of the best defenders in basketball, over him every single night?
By the way, we got a starting lineup for the Thunder a few minutes ago, and it's a big one. We missed it. It came out a few minutes ago as we were uploading lineups. OKC starting lineup: SGA, Dort, Giddey, Jalen Williams, Jeremiah Robinson Earl.
Fire it up, Jalen Williams. We already liked him a lot, so that doesn't change anything. Robinson Earl is really annoying. So any Poku, I didn't talk about him because I did expect for him to probably see a huge limitation in minutes. You can basically remove him from existence at this point in time. Darius Baisley, you can remove him from existence at this point in time. And Jeremiah Robinson Earl is probably just going to, play 22 minutes of being useless. That's kind of what he does. So I think it's just kind of miserable for anything there. But our boy Williams, I mean, you are firing that up.
Yeah, I mean, he was already one of our favorite value plays. Now he's just even
There's
more.
There's 2 Jalen Williams on OKC. Yes, we're very aware. One is not playing, so that makes it easier.
Yeah. Oh, but we had that confusion the other day. Remember, you asked me what I thought about Jalen Williams on OKC, and I said, well, he's injured. And you said, no, he's not. Other. And you meant the other Jalen Williams. So
if you weren't my boss, I would call you an effing idiot right now, but it's okay.
Jalen Williams, by the way, Jalen Williams spelled Jalen. I should have thought about this before. The Jalen Williams you want to play is Jalen. You do not want to spell the one with an I in his name.
No.
Do not play the one with an I in his name.
He's gonna be my highest owned player now, but he should be everybody's highest owned player, and he won't be. So that's cool.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure I get to as much of him as possible right
I already had 42% of him. So he was our highest owned at that position. So it's not going to change. I just want to get to as much as possible. Get another strike up against the Royce O'Neal fam. Let's go. Come on, Royce. You can fail for me one time, baby.
So this is also I'm curious to see, are you going to change any of your exposures for this at all?
What do you mean?
I mean, I was already getting to a ton of Jalen Williams.
Yeah.
I'm just going to rerun my lineups, though, and see if this gets to any more of them.
I went from 42% to 61%, if that counts for anything. Does it?
Yeah, that's more.
Go me.
Have you looked at any of the ownership yet?
No, not a single thing. I'm just updating this because, I mean, I think you were going to run into a little bit of Poku, and now you don't have to deal with any of that crap. I will say what's weird is I'm starting to get some Giddey on DK. Oh, no, just 3%. Okay. It was in the first lineup as I recrunched, and I was very confused. And there we go. Yeah, it's wild. Wild stuff.
Are there any players coming off the bench for OKC that you like?
No, not a single one. I don't like Trey Mann at 5,300. I don't like Darius Baisley now that there's no real crazy opportunity. I would say he's probably the interesting one, but you got to make room now for Poku to still play. He started the last game. He played 26 minutes there. I mean, this is just gross. I mean, we haven't seen Robinson Earl play. I mean, he played 5 minutes. He was out of the rotation. So you're adding, I don't know, 7 minutes, 10 minutes to him. So anything for he's out of play for me regardless. 3,900 Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I can't see a world where he plays the 23 minutes like we had seen when he started, or 26 minutes against Minnesota. I think somebody had to have been out, or maybe Baisley just wasn't playing a lot yet. Either way, he's not somebody that I like to roster or will roster tonight. The center spots have already been used up on Vooch. I don't really want to be playing him. I really think it just makes everybody meh on the entire front court.
This actually doesn't change my projection for Jalen Williams at all. I had him projected for 30 minutes coming off the bench. It's still going to be the same for me.
Oh, I did not have him for 30 minutes. You are bullish, sir. I had him for 26 off the bench.
Well, think of it this way. He played last game. And also he missed the start of the year because of the injury. We just went through that. So he played well, actually, he got hurt in the first game of the year. His first game back, he played 27 minutes last game. I just have to assume he's getting a jump in minutes after that.
But Josh Giddey's here. You didn't have Josh Giddey.
Yeah, but it's Jalen Williams somewhat limited coming off the bench. And the other thing, too, Jalen Williams basically plays every single position.
Correct.
He can play center.
Could he? How tall is he?
He could play like the Terry Taylor center.
I like watching him. I just don't think he's. Oh, okay, there you go. The Terry. He could do the 6'5" guy out there living his life. I think he's a really fun piece. Again, I like a lot of OKC and what they've done. God, he played for the Santa Clara Broncos. I just knew that he was the number 12 pick. That's the only thing I knew. He is 6'6". There you go. God, is he good. He's going to be very, very fun to watch.
When do we think the game is tipping off? First game is... So we got two games, actually, first. We've got Warriors, Heat, and Nets, Bulls. Are either of those national TV games?
I don't know.
Which one tips off first and what time?
It's a good question. Let's go with... Yeah, I knew Bulls Nets, and then it's the late night hammer. Suns are in the late night window, Minnesota, right? Suns, Minnesota. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Jordan Klein. Great to hear your voice. I'm going to go with 4:48.
Already tipped off.
Whoa! I was going to say it seemed like you were setting it up.
Why is my screen isn't working? This is no good. What happened? Usually I drag it over to the other screen, and then it comes up. Well, now I have a choice to make. Do I want to watch basketball or do I want to look at Eric? Good point. All right, Eric. Let me try to get it up on my other computer here instead. So the game is tipped off. Nets Bulls. We are 1 minute into the game. The only thing that's happened so far: Levine hit a jumper. And Joe Harris.
Royce O'Neal. Let's see. Royce O'Neal rebound. That's chill. Oh, man. My wife, she has to work a premiere tonight. She just told me that I told her I was going 30 minutes over. I said I was going till 5. She's like, oh, you got to watch Duke. No, I can't watch Duke. I'm watching basketball with my friends online.
Duke could take care of himself. How old is he in dog years now?
Infinity. I don't know. What's 11 months? Might have to open the door, though. Here's the thing. If I open the door, he's just going to come in. You never know what you're going to get. Oh, she said I'll put the bar collar on him. All right, good. We're safe. He'll chill.
All right. 11 months is 14 and a half in dog years. He's a teenager.
Kind of sad to think about.
Does that make sense that he's a teenager?
Does. He definitely is a teenager.
Is he humping the couch?
He's humping the couch. He needs all the attention all the time. I tell you what, dogs in general, it's a good thing he's really, really cute and I really like spending time with him. But there are times where I just kind of want to do my own thing and he follows you to the bathroom, or he'll whine because you're not rubbing his head while you're watching TV, or it's just these little small things. But, well, then there's also the big things, he'll just run as fast as he can right into your dick and he won't slow down. And it really, really hurts. Jordan Klein confirmed a thing he does. Go on and tell the people. Confirmed he does that. Oh, it hurts so bad. Oh, it's brutal.
Why does he do that?
I don't know. He just like charges. He gets so excited and he just runs as fast as he can. He just happens to be at that height and it causes pain and suffering.
Is he fast?
He's fast as shit. Yeah.
Bad times. Let's go through the Minnesota Timberwolves situation. And just if we do get news here that these guys are rolled out, because it's really the only piece of news that we have to potentially break down here. And is it going to be massively important for the slate? No. If we're being honest, it is not going to be something where if Kyle Anderson and Jordan McLaughlin rolled out, no, you do not have to totally rearrange all of your lineups. But Eric, is there potential for value here? And who would stand out the most if neither Anderson nor McLaughlin play?
I think Kyle Anderson is going to play tonight, but for what it's worth, this is the first time we've seen him questionable. I think he's absolutely going to play. But I do not think that you're going to run into a spot where McLaughlin plays here. I think you're also looking at Jalen Noel, who's been really, really good off the bench, and 17, 19 minutes that they've had here for McLaughlin. He had played 11 minutes that first game out of the gate for Minnesota. I think that's more of what you're looking for if you do get Kyle Anderson back in as it is. So I think regardless, he's playing a very, very small amount of minutes. We currently have him projected for 16. I don't know. Kyle Anderson can do some ball handling. I don't think he'll have to. I doubt that Anthony Edwards, Jalen Noel, and D'Angelo Russell will be off the floor at the same time. But Kyle Anderson, I think, steps into a larger minutes role than what you would see from McLaughlin. If they both get ruled out for some reason, Noel's just overpriced. You can't play him. It's just a difficult ask for him to pay off a 5K. I mean, shout out optimizers, man. They have steamed that guy up. He's been pretty popular on a couple slates where I didn't think he was even in the realm of playable. And then he goes nuts off the bench. He's up to 5K. Shout out Washington Huskies. Shout out EMAC. But no way that I'm playing him on this slate.
I have some heartbreaking news for you.
What?
Who do you believe is the highest scoring player so far by a very wide margin?
Royce O'Neal, I'm guessing.
It is Royce O'Neal. Royce O'Neal, 5 points, a steal, and a 3 in the first 3 minutes of the game.
Well, hey, at least I got to a little bit more in that last run than what I did have, but I have 15%. Oh, there he is. There's my dog. Oh, God. Doors open. Oh, hang on. Careful. Cord. There's a cord. There we go. Cord. It's in the door. Oh, shit.
So here's what we're going to do. We got a super chat that just came in, and then we'll head on over to Odd Shop, and we'll try to find some bets that we like for the later 2 games on the slate. But first, super chat. Vince, 1979 Gator, last man in, Bol or Mikal Bridges. Thanks for the insight. Who do I have more fantasy point projection for? Bol?
Mikal Bridges for me, for sure. And I like Bol, but now we have price to consider, fam. We have price to consider.
Well, I assume it's just fantasy points. Mikal Bridges versus Bol, and I have Mikal Bridges projected for, 4 more fantasy points. Mikal Bridges is the answer.
There you go.
Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. Let's head on over to Odd Shopper now, Eric, and try to find out some bets. I know that of it's a smaller slate, 4 games, 2 of them have already started, but it doesn't mean we can't find some value in the later games. So I'm going to pull this up and see what the most recent lines look like, what kind of value stands out on Odd Shopper. It's a totally free tool to use. You guys should be checking out. And also, what's really valuable about Odd Shopper is you want to make sure you're getting the best line possible, because you'll pretty frequently find there's a bet I like that I'm about to talk about. Well, you'll find the line at one spot might be minus 140, minus 130, or even plus money, and it might be wildly different somewhere else. The number might be different. The odds might be different. And that's one of the reasons I have a bet that I like today. Anthony Edwards under 3.5 threes. It is currently minus 156 on FanDuel. Other books have it anywhere from minus 175 to minus 190. 3.5 is a really wide number, for a really big number, I should say, for Anthony Edwards. He's only had 4 more threes once the entire year, and he's just not a very good shooter. So 3.5 threes, give me the under for Edwards. That seems like a really big number that's being posted.
Shout out you. I like it. I like it big time.
I'm just trying to gather some information on the other lines that are up right now.
Yeah, there's a couple of spots. So I'm going through BetMGM here as well. Something I liked, Mikal Bridges, what's his points prop over there? Because 14.5 was kind of the prevailing number. We just talked about liking it. I think there's a small amount of juice to squeeze on Mikal Bridges on the over of points with the absence of DeAndre Ayton. I mean, he's already playing massive minutes, but this game projects out to be pretty competitive. Suns haven't played a ton of competitive games this season. I know that they blew the absolute doors off of Golden State. Let me pull it up here as I'm talking about it, so I'm not just talking out of my ass. But I had him for 16.5 points, and I thought that made a pretty decent bet there. Yeah, so he's only played 33, 31, 33 minutes, but they've ran the doors off of Houston. The Pelicans, they were up big, ended up not closing that one. They ran Golden State out of the gym. The last 3 have been huge. The last 4 have been massive blowouts, but 41, 38, 36 minutes in 3 competitive games so far this season. That's more of the workload you're looking. So I think there could be a surplus of minutes. No DeAndre Ayton. I think things are trending towards Mikal Bridges over on that.
Oh, by the way, apologies to Jafar. I didn't see your super chat. He asked right before lock. He said he played Joe Harris and Royce O'Neal in the same single entry lineup. Is that bad? So for right now, well, it's going to be easy to answer now, a few minutes into the game. So at least as of now, I think you're feeling good about Royce O'Neal and not as great about Joe Harris, but it's fine. There's no issues with that.
Yeah, we'll find out with Joe Harris. He's not in yet, so we got some time. You know, those who hung with me. Yikes, we'll find out. Andrew Wiggins off to a little bit of a start for FanDuel.
No, Joe Harris started.
All right, sorry. I was looking at Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry and not thinking. Yeah, Joe Harris started. My bad, but we'll be okay.
So
we'll be okay.
It's early, right? So
Patrick Williams, 4 points and a steal. Look at you, Patchy. Look at you.
I wouldn't have had any issue with that, Jafar. And apologies for missing that before lock.
How dare you?
Was there any other
Somebody said that we're way cooler than the first 2 guys. Duh.
Who was it that said that? Was it Brandon Katz? Because that guy's got good opinions.
No, I saw it. It ran by on my screen and then I moved it. Who did they say? Everyone, Eric Fades lately going off. Corey Ballmer, F you. That's not true, but it was yesterday. Let's see. Harris was in. He's already out. That's not ideal. That's not ideal. Who said that? I know I saw it come through. Yeah, Tragedy V27. You guys are way cooler than the first set of guys. There we go. Truer words have never been spoken.
You know where I think there is some value here, well, other than BetMGM, because you sign up by clicking on the link and you place a $10 bet on any NBA money line. It pays out $200 when 3-pointers hit. But it looks like there's some value on the OKC guys now, because with that starting lineup change, Trey Mann's over-under for points is 11.5. Give me the under on that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was already jacked up to a spot. I saw some tickets online. People were betting like 20 plus more points for Trey Mann and all this stuff. And then Josh Giddey got ruled in. And I was like, why would you go out of your way to make that play on an efficient line? And it's just wild to me that somebody would want to go and reach for that. Obviously, it always matters what the number is, but I think it was like plus 220 or something for 20 or more. What an ask that would be even without Josh Giddey. It just betting efficient lines like that is just nuts to me. If you could bet an under of something like that, that would make some sense, because then you get the miraculous Josh Giddey news. You're really sitting on the nuts, but best of luck to him scoring 20, because it's not going to happen tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the under on Trey Mann there, and it just makes sense. It does look like a lot of books have taken those numbers off the board, but it is still available in some spots. Trey Mann, not only, by the way, is it 11.5 points, it's plus money on the under 11.5 all day.
Love it. Turnover, Royce O'Neal down to 8.2 on FanDuel.com. Let's go. The fade lives on.
I've got one more for you here.
Okay.
Jalen Williams over 2.5 rebounds.
Over?
Yes. I don't even know. Yeah,
what am I waiting for?
Was that an agreement, a disagreement?
No, I said over. Like, yes.
Oh, it sounded like a question.
Over?
Yeah.
Over?
Yes, over. I like that one a lot. Any other prop lines here from the OKC?
Shut up.
Jordan, in my defense, were you also confused by his answer?
I love it. I shout out to the great, to the wilderness man himself, Matthew Gajewski.
Are there any other props or anything that stands out to you from the final two games of Slate? If not, it's okay. You're not forced with your
No, I'm not. Well, I scoured everywhere and I found the two props that I liked today. It was over 2.5 threes for Zach LaVine. And then the points prop for Zach LaVine, 22.5, I thought made some sense at that point in time. And then the over 14.5 for Mikal Bridges. I really, really liked that one. I think you put us on two pretty good ones that make a lot of sense there. I can't believe the Trey Man one actually exists at 11.5 right now. That is pretty great. But they didn't have a lot of lines after that Giddey news came out, so I didn't go back and check once the show started.
3-pointer for Royce O'Neal. The Nets have 10 points right now. The Nets, absolutely terrible showing for them so far. We have 4.5 minutes left in the first quarter. The Nets have scored 10 points. Royce O'Neal has 8 of them.
Power of the back-to-back, baby. Power of the back-to-back.
On the
randomness. How popular did he end up on DraftKings? Because something told me he was going to be north of 30%. Is he north of 30%?
Let me pull up the $15 right now.
I would like to know this. This is information I must know.
In the $15 on DraftKings, he is 41% owned.
Absolute donkeys. You're all donkeys. Like,
hey,
come on.
I've got my Royce O'Neal exposure.
Oh, congratulations on hitting the chalkiest play on the slate. Way to go.
I didn't know he was going to be 41% owned.
I did. I told you he was going to be north of 30. God. People. It's just wild how lucky people get. And those people are not me right now.
Super chat from Alex Kaiser. DK single entry, Booker and Bol or SGA and Cam Johnson? That's very close for me.
I mean, SGA is not close for me. I don't want SGA. But I will say, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, not going to do anything that Pokusevski might have been able to do. He's terrible. So maybe SGA I could revisit it, but he's already out for me. So I'm not going to try to make that work in the next however many minutes. I'll go with the first one.
Booker and Bol.
Yep.
It's really close. I'll go Booker and Bol as well.
Good man. He chose wisely.
We are caught up on the super chats now. Let's go to the results of the games and see, is anybody scoring fantasy points today other than Royce O'Neal? The answer is yes. Ayo Dosunmu has 6 points, a rebound, an assist, and a steal. Zach LaVine has 4 points and 4 assists. Unfortunately, Vooch struggling. He's made 0 shots so far. He has 1 point, 4 rebounds, the 1 free throw. How are we feeling about Vooch's slow start?
Not great, Bob.
I do have the over on his rebounds prop, and that's very low. That's the only thing he's doing right now is rebounding. So that's at least a positive.
On Prize Picks, I hammered a lot of 14.5 over rebounds plus assists, I think is what it was. Surely that's going to go well.
What was just his rebounds?
I think it was 11.5 or 12.5.
Yeah, it was 11.5 on.
I think it might have been north of that at the time that I was putting it in. It might have been 12.5. I don't want to speak out of character because I saw the 14.5 and I saw the combination and I just bet it. So there you go.
Super chat from MM3 C Poletti. How much is your night ruined when your best lineups are in cash tournaments? I don't really play a lot of cash for NBA, so.
Me either.
I mean, there's no harm in throwing. So there's no harm in throwing your cash lineup into a GPP, but if you're building a lineup for tournament purposes, it's suboptimal to play it in cash. Does that follow?
Yeah, 100%. And the reason I don't really play cash when I'm on shows, which is every day of the week, I choose to, if I'm going to play cash, I'm going to spend so much time and energy on that one lineup. Whereas I've gotten so good at late swap, and there's more money, I think, to be made long-term by being good at that than trying to run into the right 2v2s every single day. But it doesn't mean that when you're at home, you guys can totally play cash and grind on the one lineup. I know I've got a friend, Nathan, that is watching right now back in South Dakota, that I know that that's kind of his thing. He just smashes one cash lineup, and he's done very well for himself on FanDuel.com. But when I can't necessarily sit here and tweak that one lineup over and over again, it's difficult in NBA. And in the NFL, I have no issue with it.
So the other thing too with I used to love when I was first starting to play DFS and FanDuel had like those $1, $2 games. I like playing them, but to me the edge in those definitely goes away when I can't play anything below. Was it $5 on DK or anything below $4 on DK and anything below $3 on FanDuel. So to me those games now I would have to play a little bit higher dollar tournaments for cash games. Obviously, $5 is not a lot for any one lineup, but there's a big difference in how sharp the field is to, in my opinion, a $5 cash game versus like a $1 cash game. I just play tournaments for the most part.
Yep, I'm with you. Oregon's only number 8. Ryan Nelson, Oregon number 8. Love our Heisman boy. Yeah, Bo Nix. Why are they only number 8? Their only loss is Georgia. I mean, people must view the Pac-12 horribly, and I get it. They're not very good, but Utah, USC, a lot of teams that are improved in the Pac-12. I'm kind of surprised. I know that Oregon hasn't had to play either of them, but I'm a little bit surprised to just see Oregon at 8. I thought they would possibly have a chance to jump into like 6. It's going to be interesting how this committee values people. I was trying to, again, this is more of your streets, trying to factor in outrights or, trying to do futures bets, but I was looking at doing an Oregon futures bet to win the national title and finding a way to like sneak in some value there. But if they're going to open at 8, this committee does not give a shit about, your one loss. They just factor in undefeated. I'm assuming Tennessee, number 2. I'm assuming Alabama. Where did they finish up? That's the other question I have.
I don't know anything. I don't even know what we're talking about.
They're the number 6 team. College sports. You care so much.
Yeah. NASCAR. Yeah, I don't give a shit about NASCAR. Oregon good at NASCAR?
Hate you guys.
I didn't know if you were talking about college football or college basketball.
College football.
Oh.
They had the first tournament committee that came out when we were on the show. I just didn't have a chance to look at it. It was at 4 p.m. my time. It came out 7 p.m. Eastern time. They announced the first rankings of the top 25.
I could not care less.
Good talk. Glad we had it.
Yeah, I'm so bored right now.
Dragic 3. Can we? What was Dragic's ownership in the $15? That's what I want to know.
So Dragic ended up being, I think, 15% owned. Yeah, 15%.
A lot more than I was expecting.
Dragic is 15%. The player ended up being a lot lower than I was expecting. Not that I'd say a lot lower. I thought there was a chance Durant would end up being fairly popular. 27% for him is pretty modest.
Yeah, that's lower.
It was actually, if he's going to end up shitting the bed, this will play in our favor. Vooch is crazy popular today.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Well, that's bad. I do have an absolute sick lineup though right now. Steph Curry is going nuts. This is just beautiful for me.
Who do you think is more popular, Eric? Royce O'Neal or Vooch tonight?
I mean, Royce O'Neal, I assume.
Both 41% owned.
Jesus Christ. Oh, Andrew Wiggins is also just, I can't with this guy. I can't with him. I just want to drop kick him in the face. I hate it. I hate everything about him.
Top scorers on the slate.
He's improved, but I don't care.
Top scorers on the slate. This is what we'll close with, and we figure out what we're sweating. Steph Curry at 17 fantasy points. That feels suboptimal for both of us.
Oh no, I was over. I have 28% of him.
Okay, never mind then.
Yeah, I said I liked Steph Curry, and I said I was very opposite of you in that.
Fair. Okay, I forgot that. Andrew Wiggins. So the 2 top scorers on Slate right now, Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, the Wiggins one's not good. I'm going to say, you want to talk suboptimal. Do I have a share of Andrew Wiggins in 100 line? Oh, I have a little. I have 2 shares. There we go.
Wiggins
I hate him so much.
8% on. Wiggins is really good now.
I know. It's so annoying. Just being a Timberwolves fan, you know who'd be perfect for the Timberwolves right now? Andrew Wiggins would be perfect for the Timberwolves.
We've talked about this before. Like, he was never going to be good there. It wasn't going to happen. Hey, we have a new leading scorer on the slate. This is a good way to close because this is good news. The new highest scorer on the fantasy slate, Kevin Durant. Things have returned to normal. I would love for Kevin Durant to be the highest scoring player on this slate. Guys,
let's go.
Thank you very much for watching. Thumbs up on the video. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more of you like the video, the more fantasy points that Kevin Durant scores today. Just a good sign. Just how it works. So if you haven't done that yet, do that on the way out. Enjoy the games tonight. Good luck.